Anyway, let's blast off. Let's blast off before I forget, because it's you know, I've been chirping. I've been talking for a while, okay? It's Monday news day, talking TikTok ban with Christian Divyne. I was on Fox 11. Did you hear the Fresh and Fit broke up? Wait, really? I can't believe there's like a level of anti-Semitism that got like that's crazy. Like Myron hit that level of anti-Semitism so hard that even the other dude was like, dude, I can't do this. Like I genuinely can't do this. Like you've gone out of control, sir. You've too much for me. Like, how do you, was it really because of anti-Semitism? I don't know. I feel like that's got to be it, right? Because it's not about how much they hate women. I'm pretty sure they're united on that front. It feels like there's only one thing. It might. It's also probably not racism either, because like they're united on that front too. I think there's like a level of anti-Semitism that one party was exhibiting, where the other party was like, I'm kind of invested in the Jews control the media narrative, but like not to the degree where you think everything is Jews. You know what I mean? It's like anti-Semitism infighting, where it's got to be like a point where he was just like, all right, dude, like, yeah, I agree, Jews control the media, but like, you know, you keep pointing to the Jews on everything. It's like, it's not everything. Leftovers breakup, but further on the right. Yeah, no, it's just like the Leftovers breakup. You know, we broke up over my relentless anti-Semitism. Oh my God, I feel like I just gave Ethan an idea. He's gonna say that. Oh look, it's blacks doing what blacks do best: loot in times of chaos. I'm ashamed to share the same skin color as some of these stupid ass bleep. And it's very obviously like, this is, Myron is like 8 days late to the game at this point. Not 8 days late, but like, you know, at least 2 or 3 days late. These tweets already popped off. We already know what the actual context is. It's not actually people looting. It's people saving their own. Like Altadena is historically a black community. Is people from their own communities taking out their own valuable possessions while their house is about to be on fire. This is KTLA coverage, and this dude is multiple days late to the conversation. People already knew that this was a false racist nonsense. How come when it comes to race-related issues, y'all on this app don't care if it's fake news or not? This was already debunked and proven not to be looters, rather people helping evacuate, but it seems like y'all don't care and will spread this cat video. Genuinely curious too. How can y'all swear up and down to seek truth, but when it pertains to race, y'all seem to spread fake news just like the people / organizations y'all claim to hate? Is it rage bait for impressions or? Yeah, it is. It is rage bait for impressions. 100%. That's exactly what it is. Your rage trying to understand it grifting races? Yeah, I just don't get how like people, it's always shocking to me that people are still at this stage on the internet like kind of oblivious of the ways in which these guys operate. But, you know, more power to rage for figuring it out slowly but surely. The worst part is the police reported 10 of the whole burned area, thousands of homes, black people arrested for potential looting, and the right wing latched onto that hard proof. They went crazy for a few hours. I know. All right, it's Monday news day, talking TikTok ban with Christian Divyne. I was on Fox 11 last week of Brandon. 60 Minutes recognizes Israeli atrocities, ICE raids. What else? Scary games with Ray soon, she was asking. Sure. Miguel Hanloso says, hey, the security guard in Malibu, I can safely say that looting isn't happening like I had initially worried about. Been quiet as a mouse over here and everyone is gone. Yeah. This is what I meant when I said that, like, we have a tendency to basically refuse to look at things right in front of us. You can be basically in the middle of the conversation. Like, you can be in Malibu where people are saying looting is happening. And even if you don't see any looting happening, you will look at people that are behaving suspiciously in a different way. And it reaffirms your suspicions because you just got primed by TikTok and mainstream media into thinking that there's like a massive amount of looting that is taking place. That's it. That's simply what happens in mainstream media. And I feel like that's why these narratives are very frustrating. Anyway, it's Monday news day, talking TikTok ban. Last week of Brandon, 60 Minutes recognizes Israeli atrocities, ICE raids, hostage negotiation talks, and more. Get in now. I got your blast off meme full Sundays. I'm using it. Okay. Yes, I know Red Note is the #1 app. We'll talk about Red Note too. Y'all are so annoying. Oh my God. I know. We're going to talk about Red Note. God damn, dude. I don't use TikTok that much. And it's kind of crazy to me how much you guys are primed by TikTok. I don't even think TikTok is going to get banned. I've said this already. It seems like there's a lot of people that wanted to get banned, except for all of the people who are much larger in numbers that are using TikTok that don't want it to get banned. But the one thing that I'm noticing is that TikTok does have a tendency to change discourse so dramatically that even in a community such as this one, there are a tremendous number of people that are like, bro, talk about Red Note. Get on Zhang, what is it? Talk about Red Note. Talk about Red Note. Talk about Red Note. Xiao Hongshu! Xiao Hongshu! Talk about Xiao Hongshu! I'm on Xiao Hongshu! Are you going to talk about the most important issue, Pyre software leaving 2 people to die? What? I work for a homeowners association, mostly just keeping shit quiet and letting people through the gate to the neighborhood. What? Pirate software did what? Roached out? I don't know what that means. I have no idea what you're talking about. I literally have no... I'm so upset. What is happening right now? What the hell is going on right now? Okay. Hope you're having a good day, buddy. Would love another fitness merch lineup in the future. Need more gym swag? Yes. Extra Emily pulled a Hasanabi. What is this?
Can you what?
Can I fart? I farted, sorry.
Oh my God, Emily.
It was silent.
Emily.
But deadly.
Emily, why?
I told you I have diarrhea. I can't really hold it in. Okay.
You need some tea.
I think it's crazy that people are saying this is actually pulling a Hasanabi when it's I've never farted in a car. Well, I used to fart in cars with Will all the time back in the day to punish him, and also because it's funny. But like, since I've been a content creator, I have not done this. I do burp a lot in cars, and when I burp, it does smell. But I don't like that this is a comparison. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that this is like, oh, this is Hasanabi behavior. It's like, it's not. It's I do something different. Okay. Invite Unk. This is another thing that every single person is posting, which is crazy. This has 40 likes. This has 40 likes, and I've seen this exact same link in my chat probably 100 times so far since I started. As in, there are more people that have linked this tweet than liked it. How does this happen? It doesn't make any sense. This is so... I always want to expand the boundaries of this community. I always want to know what's happening in the world, and I fear that day in and day out we become more and more insulated, more and more insular. Like, everyone's algorithm is identical, and y'all annoy me so much because there's so much happening in the world in terms of, like, new culture things.
So I've seen a couple of these clips that are awesome. Hassan Piker went out. He lives in LA. Is he okay?
He's okay, I think.
I don't know where in LA he lives. I've never been invited. So
to his house. Yeah, just throwing that out there.
I mean, it's all right. Anyways, Hassan went out and was speaking. So I've seen a couple of these clips that are awesome.
Yeah, it's messed up. I know. I'm sorry. Here's the issue. My man lives and films out of the heartland of America, mere steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in downtown Brooklyn, New York. Unfortunately, that is very far away. He's not in LA. Now he is coming to Los Angeles. He is coming to Los Angeles. And I would be very excited to host him. The issue is he's coming to Los Angeles when I'm not in Los Angeles. I'm going to be in Japan, which I told him. But if we happen to be in LA at the same time, of course, he has a standing invite. A permanent invite. My real Unk. Real Unk is supportive of me interviewing criminal firefighters. Fake Unk, on the other hand, Shaky Gurga. I haven't seen what he's had to say about this stuff, but I suspect he's not too fond of me interviewing criminal firefighters. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm Max Lefting again. Maximilian Leftist. Yeah. Please invite her too. She's my journalist crush. Ahem. What? Emma Vigeland? Emma Vigeland also has an open invite. The problem is, again, they are filming from live steps, mere steps, from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of downtown Brooklyn, New York, USA. Okay? Understand that they are very far. If they come to LA, then hell yeah, we'll collab all day, every day. Came across someone in the game with the name Shaky Gurga, and I said, what's up? And they got mad at me for bringing politics into their game and then logged out. I was so confused. That's awesome. I don't like this unk on unk hate. I mean, yeah, look, the uncle-nephew bond is still strong, regardless of what my unk, real and fake, says about whatever issue. Hassan, do a cooking stream with Jamie. She is my streamer crush. Who's Jamie? Now we're just saying anything in the chat. What'd you do to my girl Kaya? She looks exhausted. Oh, Kaya is dead right now. It's because Jamie is iGumdrop. She does everyone's merch. Where did you get your hoodie from? In the new Fear End episode? I don't know. All right. Let's move on to real news and not extra Emily farting. All right, here it is. Here's the blast off meme. As you know, let the people know. Remain calm. Dark Brandon is coming. Okay. Do a politics stream with Hasanabi. He's my streaming crush. No, I will not be doing a politics stream with Hasanabi. That guy sucks. I heard he exploits homeless people and incarcerated wildfire firefighters. That's true. iGumdrop did Pokey and Sykkuno's merch, if I recall correctly. She does cooking streams and TikToks too. I mean, I'm down. I heard he also hates women. Just hates women. All right. I can't believe that this video made it to the front of r/all. Look at this. Interesting as F. California has incarcerated firefighters. This program helped my cousin get out of prison early, but it didn't help him land a firefighting job like they told him it would. Well, the problem is California has licensing boards for various careers, and the licensing board won't allow felons. So even if the cities wanted them, it would be illegal. There's a lot of people that have talked about this, but it has changed in the recent years. So they have initiatives in play working to solve these problems, these inadequacies in the system, for the record. So I'm not doom scrolling. I am fascinated about one thing, because I saw posts from my stream of meeting the incarcerated firefighters, and aside from like the classic, don't be fooled by this man that you think is a good guy, he's actually a bad guy. I will not actually elaborate. He's just a bad guy. He's a misogynist. He wants to do bad things to women, stuff like that. I was actually more interested in, or rather more surprised by the fact that the American carceral state and the American prison industrial complex is so expansive that there are a lot of people who have either A, been in prison themselves, or B, know someone who is a friend or a family member that is also a convict, ex-con. And it's kind of shocking. But I guess because we universalize the evil and we spread it out so vast in this country, that there are people who are at least like one step removed, if not directly experience the horrifying conditions of American prison. Breaking Points covered the interview with the incarcerated firefighters as well. Yeah. About 5.1% of Americans will serve time in prison during their lifetime. Yeah, it's crazy. Work with an ex-con on my oil changing job. Cool guy who just wanted to earn a living and spend time with his daughter. Yeah. It's just shocking. It's shocking, but I think it's also yet another demonstration of how vast this harm is. You really need to get better at interviews, my dude. What does that even mean? What are you talking about? I mean, there's always room for improvement. You're not wrong. I mean, there's always room for improvement, but I don't know which interview you're referencing, or I don't know what you're talking about. But if you think that like a normal back and forth conversation that I'm having with incarcerated firefighters is supposed to be a professional setup and a professional interview, you're wrong. It's not supposed to be that way. Like, I think that the video that we did, which, you know, was a 2-hour back and forth where I was just like having a normal back and forth interaction with these people was, you know, was the right move. I'm mostly referencing the interview, the one you had with the niece of the guy that drove through people last week. Wait, what? What was your issue with that? You felt a little lost as to what to ask? Yeah, there was no preparation. There was no prep time in that situation. We just, like, it happened, you know, it happened in real time. And I also presented it as professionally as I could. That just stayed in your mind for 2 weeks? That's crazy. Are you entertaining this chatter? I don't know. I think the issue with this kind of stuff is that they expect me, like a lot of chatters expect me to have the same output as like a professional. They expect me to have a similar output to like a professionally crafted documentarian. You know what I mean? Like not realizing that there's maybe 20 producers and numerous other people working in real time to put that thing together. And the anchor that you see is simply just reading words that are presented in front of them in that situation. It's not like a normal conversation. And if your counter to that is, why don't you hire professional producers and staff and researchers to be able to conduct these interviews in real time, then you're demanding me to literally turn this into MSNBC. And that's what's frustrating, you know? Like there's a reason why I do what I do. It's rapid, it's fast paced. And there's also a reason why it's not easy to replicate. You have to be genuinely brain broken, right? You have to be genuinely brain broken, have a lot of interest, like genuine interest in all of the issues that you talk about, and be able to conduct all of this and be able to scour through thousands of messages flying in the chat in real time while offering real time coverage on things that are happening. It's not a very easy thing to do in general. And I think I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people think like, because I have a very laid back attitude when I'm covering this sort of stuff, that they think like, oh, this is like a super easy thing to do. Why can't you just do it in the same way that like, why can't you do this in the same way that like CNN does it? Not realizing that the work that people put in on the background to be able to put that sort of output out there is tremendous. And if I were to do that, then I would have to dramatically alter the way that I actually cover the news. Does that make sense? Because like I try my best though, and there's always room for improvement. So you're not wrong. But having said that, wait, hold on. Oh, I have a very special guest coming tomorrow as well. Not in the building, but we're gonna be Discording. All right, we'll start with the wildfires, and then we'll move back to Israel-Palestine related stuff, as well as some other issues.
Fires, they are still burning in Southern California. Still.
Did you already signal boost your video? The interview came out. In the work. Oh yeah, my video came out. It actually started off doing numbers, and then it halted. I genuinely think YouTube halts my stuff. I swear to God. I have a feeling that YouTube suppresses my commentary, or something happens. Maybe it gets like mass downvoted or something. I don't know what it is. Cause like
we're putting in the work.
Like it started off doing crazy numbers, and then it immediately got suppressed. And I don't know what it is. It's been on the clip channel for days. No, it only got 34 downvotes. Wait, really? I don't even know how many downvotes it has. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know what the reasoning behind it is. It's just like interesting to see that the video that was doing fairly well just kind of stopped, kind of fell flat. I work as CDCR on the Cal Fire and Cal OS firefighting items. We currently have 939 inmates, 110 staff, comprising 68 crews at all incidents. Nice. What's in the can this morning? What do you mean? Just coffee. It doesn't have analytics yet for audience retention. You have 1.5 million on Twitter, and I've never seen you post an original YouTube video on there. Yeah, I don't, because I mean, I promoted this video on my Instagram, but I didn't promote it on my Twitter. Our Hasanabi Gaming TikTok channel got suppressed. We were getting 50 to 100K TikToks consistently, and now we can't break 1 to 2K. Same content on YouTube Shorts are 1 out of 10. Yeah. Grab an espresso machine, my dude. It's time to upgrade. Okay, first of all, I have one already. But CNN breaking news. Hamas is expected to release 33 hostages during the first phase of an emergency ceasefire agreement, according to Israeli officials. All right. Let's get to the wildfires first, and then we'll get to the ceasefire thing.
They're threatening to spread in Los Angeles County. We're seeing yet more images of heartbreaking destruction, and heartbreaking is a word here. Look at these pictures. We have now learned at least 24 people have died. They expect that number will go higher because several are still missing at this hour. Since it began, the fires have burned around 40,000 acres, scorching an area larger than the entire city of San Francisco. Take that in for a second. More evacuation alerts have now been issued for neighborhoods that had been spared until now. But we've got team coverage. We're going to begin again with Jonathan Vigliotti in Pacific Palisades. Jonathan, kudos to you. Good morning. What can you tell us?
And Gail, good morning to you. As you can imagine, so many people in a state of shock as they return back to scenes like this. The good news, the wind has calmed down over the weekend, giving fire crews a bit of the upper hand. But unfortunately, the National Weather Service once again issuing its most dire wind event warning with nearly identical conditions to what unfolded last week, creating all of this destruction. To put that in perspective, this is the equivalent of this area being hit by back-to-back hurricanes.
Crews are waging an all-out battle against the fires, attacking from both the ground and the sky for nearly a week. There are now about 5,000 fire personnel assigned to the Palisades fire alone.
Little fire tornado.
And with wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour expected this week, LA remains on high alert.
But with this next wind event, got to stay informed. Follow all evacuation warnings and orders. And the key here is without delay.
Authorities warn that the entire region is at risk. Millions have their bags packed as their fellow Angelenos cope with what's already been lost.
Hey, Jeff.
What?
There's the TV.
Devastating. It's devastating and numbing. I didn't grab anything because I didn't expect it to be this bad.
Firefighters have been pre-treating perimeters with retardant to buy critical time for when high winds ground aerial teams.
Loving to see
Firefighters
Cali
from around the
burning.
U.S. as well as Mexico and Canada are on the ground. And on Sunday, Governor Gavin Newsom announced an additional 1,000 National Guard troops to the 1,500 already deployed.
Good morning, everyone.
Mayor Karen Bass, who's facing scrutiny over the firefighting budget and traveling last week overseas amid the fire warnings, brushed off the criticism.
Oh, we need to continue to act in a unified manner. Those people that are affected by the fires, we give all of our possible support to.
Bass confirmed President-elect Trump has been invited and said she doesn't expect any animosity, despite his attacking Bass and Newsom online. An estimated 75% of the Pacific Palisades is now completely gone. Many are searching for answers while reality sinks in.
It's still heartbreaking, even if your house is there, to know that what I always thought was one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in Los Angeles.
Someone in the chat said, what happened to the Palestine flag? New Twitch policy. No, not every single thing is a conspiracy, okay? It fell. That's it. Good moment to just like take a deep breath and think maybe not everything has to be a conspiracy.
It's just gone.
And the threat continues tomorrow morning. Wind gusts exceeding 70 miles per hour. Officials saying they're going to preemptively cut power in some neighborhoods to prevent sparks from starting from down power lines. And in fact, there is an investigation into whether a power conductor sparked at least one of these fires, Tony.
That's often what it is. Jonathan, thank you very much. Appreciate your great work out there.
So what I think is, I don't want to speculate at all, but the highest likelihood for a lot of the fires, specifically Altadena, for example, from what I've seen thus far, is that it's a electrical malfunction on the power lines that are hitting one another and that are near brush. And the other one specifically for the Palisades one, what we have seen so far is like it was near a trail into Panga Canyon, if I'm not mistaken. And I feel like that the likely culprit there could potentially be like, I don't know, someone smoking weed or something, like a cigarette butt or so we'll see. I mean, this is again all speculative. Fool, weed goes out too quick, or a cigarette or something like that. What caused the Palisades blade? Visual evidence points to a recent fire nearby. The New Year's Eve fireworks start the largest Los Angeles fire. But or if it's not a cigarette bud, it could have been a fallen ember from a nearby fire or something, considering how the winds were carrying carrying embers miles away, pretty much. The foot of the fire started real close to where the last fire was on New Year's Eve, said a Los Angeles County firefighter. According to a Washington Post review of the archive radio transmissions, it looks like it's going to make a good run, one chimed into the dispatch. The Post analysis of photos, videos, satellite imagery on radio communications, as well as interviews with witnesses, offers new evidence that the Palisades fire started in the area where firefighters had spent hours using helicopters to knock down a blaze 6 days earlier. Investigators from the state and federal agencies descended on this area in recent days, interviewing residents and looking for evidence, including around the burn scar, the New Year's Eve fire, of what sparked the blaze. Post analysis showed that the new fire started in the vicinity of the old fire, raising the possibility that the New Year's Eve fire was reignited, which can occur in windy conditions. Residents also told the Post and investigators on scene that firefighters' response Tuesday was much slower than on New Year's Eve, a view confirmed by radio transmissions. From Colorado to California to Hawaii, flare-ups of previous fires, known as reignition, have been the cause of some of the nation's most catastrophic and deadly wildfires. This past summer, California officials coordinated a social media campaign to warn residents that terrain scorched but seemingly extinguished can spawn deadly new fires for weeks after the old ones appear to have gone out, as the fire can smolder almost undetected underground or inside wood. Despite that and warnings of an intense and dangerous wind event last week, a Los Angeles Fire Department spokesman told the Post on Friday that it was not the department's practice to maintain patrols of past fire sites, even for a few days after the fires have gone cold. We know that fires rekindle and transition from smoldering to flaming, said Michael Gollner, a professor of mechanical engineer and fire scientist at the University of California, Berkeley, who reviewed the Post's materials. It's certainly possible that something from that previous fire within a week had rekindled and caused the ignition. Investigators are only beginning to hunt for the cause of the Palisades fire, the first and largest of what became a terrifying days-long series of firestorms that would touch nearly every corner of the sprawling Los Angeles region. After a Sunday lull in the winds, the death toll citywide was still rising with 24 dead and more than 12,000 homes and structures have burned. Higher fire risk was expected to return Monday through Wednesday, with speculation ranging from downed power equipment to arson. Identifying the origins of fires will have huge and possibly expensive implications for the state and how it manages growing wildfire risks. The Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is taking the lead on the investigation, officials said. In a statement, the ATF spokesperson said, ATF certified fire investigators did an initial survey of the area, but the investigation has not begun. Not an expert, but I feel like this is why they weren't letting vehicles into burned areas in that vid the other day. No, there are multiple different reasons for why vehicles are not let into areas that are burning. Number one, it's to ensure that civilians don't get in the way of emergency services and create additional problems for emergency services, because you can go from someone who wants to go through the burning ashes of your house to a victim like that, which causes additional strain on the already limited resources in a time of crisis. The second reason is because you also, could inhale toxic fumes and get in the way. But last but not least, your car, if you ditch it in the middle of the road, is now an additional hurdle that the emergency service has to clear. There are many different reasons as to why they stop people from going into those areas. But first and foremost, the priority is safety. Ironically enough, I think that the media does a disservice when they cover the National Guard or the police being deployed into these areas as a way to combat looters. They're actually doing a disservice to the public, because the real reason as to why police and National Guard are deployed in times of need in areas like this are not to actually stop looting from happening. It's literally to stop people from going into these unsafe neighborhoods. That is the primary reason. And it's very frustrating to see everyone constantly alarmed and in a panic, constantly alarmed and panicked by the crazy looting narratives. These bandits are trying to do everything they can to steal your valuable possessions that have been turned into dust and ash. Anyway, from the start of the fire Tuesday, authorities have known that the smoke began in a stretch of the Temescal Ridge in the Santa Monica Mountains, where the earlier fire believed by residents to have been sparked by firewoods occurred. The Post identified the burn scar of the New Year's Eve fire using false color satellite imagery taken before and after the blaze. The technique tracks changes to vegetation in satellite imagery. Healthy plant cover appears red, while scorched ground appears blue to brown. In addition, satellite imagery taken on Tuesday at 10:45 a.m., about 20 minutes after video show the Palisades fire began, indicates that the origin of the smoke overlapped with a burn scar from the New Year's Eve fire. Smoke extends in the direction of the wind to the south, away from the previously burned area. The question of what caused the fire has weighed on the minds of many who have lost their homes, while also fueling conspiracy theories online, of course. Residents and business owners are considering lawsuits seeking who might be to blame for the damages and economic losses that Wells Fargo estimates could range from $60 billion to $130 billion. Investigators from local, state, and federal agencies have been combing the site of the fires, beginning with people who stayed behind. But it will take a long time to determine it. There is some additional new evidence, I would say, that shows the there's some additional new evidence that shows the potential,
and that
like
is good
shows where it came from, right? But that doesn't mean that we have 100% certainty on how these fires started, and there's still always going to be rampant speculations that run wild. And you know, for that reason, it's important to just take a deep breath and wait for these investigations to be concluded, rather than leaning into whatever conspiracy theories that correspond to your personal biases, if that makes sense. Is that all right? All right. Firefighters continue to battle blazes in Southern California.
But this map shows where all the fires are burning across Los Angeles. The two big ones, they are still the Palisades fire and the Eden fire. Firefighters are battling the flames from the air as they try to contain as much as possible before the wind kicks up again.
Yeah, there is concern now about the return of the Santa Ana winds as the search for the missing intensifies and the death.
Yeah, this is what's actually really scary. The Santa Ana winds are going to increase in intensity, according to people, according to the weather people that have talked about this. Tomorrow night, leading into I believe like Wednesday morning, if I'm not mistaken, or is it tonight, leading into Tuesday morning? This is initially what caused the wildfires to get completely out of control. Hopefully, because of the fact that these wildfires have been ravaging California for the past week, there are so many extra hands this time around, including, you know, we talked about the MAFS system that they have. Like the American military is involved in it. You have Mexican wildfire fighters. You have firefighters from all around in nearby states that have come down. So hopefully they'll be able to tackle it a little bit better. But the unfortunate reality is, if wind conditions get to 80 to 100 miles, it severely limits tackling these wildfires. That's something to always consider. Please make an emergency go bag. Chatter, if you think I don't have an emergency go bag at this point, I don't know what to tell you. Of course, NOAA red flag through January 15th, 12 p.m. Like, yeah, I've had a go bag already prepared, ready to go for some time now.
That toll has risen to 24 people. The head of a major private power company will join us live. His company is facing questions about its electrical equipment, possibly sparking some of the fires. We have team coverage all over the fire zones. Ginger is standing by with a red flag warning from the National Weather Service that is expected to last until Wednesday. And we start with Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman in Pacific Palisades. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, George. More than 8 million people in LA County are facing this critical fire risk today. The National Weather Service giving it that rare designation.
What's an emergency go bag? You just need to have like food, a change of clothes, water, and your emergency items like that you can't lose in a fire, you know? Okay.
A particularly dangerous situation, same as it was last week. And, you know, the firefighters who've been on the line here for a week are already exhausted, like the folks here at Fire Station 69 getting a little bit of shut-eye right now because they have been getting massive amounts of reinforcements in terms of personnel and equipment.
This morning, exhausted fire crews trying to snuff out remaining hot.
Does Kai have an emergency go bag? No. Kaya. Hi. Kaya. Place, get your fat ass back on that bed. Kaya is the go bag. I want to train her to basically be able to carry equipment so bad because I think she would be so cool. What would you feed her? Yeah, I have dog food, chat. What are you talking about? Like, that's also a part of the go bag. Yeah, I want to use her as a pack mule. I think she could do a great job at it. What are you looking at, huh? Good girl. Good lady. Sleepy baby. Stop calling Kaya fat while also making her lay down for 8 hours while you yap. First of all, Kaya gets more workout than 90% of chatters in here, okay? Kaya works out more than most of you. She's in remarkable shape. That's why I got her a tummy tuck, because I was worried she was getting a little fat.
Spots as officials are bracing for those Santa Ana wind gusts today, expected to reach 70 miles an hour.
Go, go, go.
Over the weekend, the Palisades fire again flaring up, this time near Mandeville Canyon, the fire encroaching on Brentwood and Encino, triggering an unprecedented air assault. The largest blaze, the Palisades fire, scorching nearly 24,000 acres with only 13% containment. And that fire spinning up a fire NATO. And reinforcements pouring in for both Mexico and Canada, deploying fire crews and equipment, specifically those large air tankers. But FEMA saying there are limits to that air support.
We're also talking about a very small space from the air, and we got to make sure that those aircraft are safe. They can only put so much in the air at that one time.
This is authorities in LA County are now investigating the possible causes of the fire.
Hey, babe, I need you to come out here right now. We have a very big problem. What?
Doorbell camera and cell phone video from Jeffrey and Cheryl Koo showing the frantic moments when they say they saw this small fire near their Altadena house at around 6:19 p.m. Tuesday.
Oh, at that time, that when we saw it, it was just at the base of the tower. And within minutes, it had spread.
The Koos racing outside, filming what they saw in those terrifying moments, and look closely beyond the tree line. That's a transmission tower.
What did it feel like?
It was a nightmare, and I think the worst part was every time I checked on the fire, it got worse.
And minute by minute, they watched the fire grow. Nearby, Jennifer Errico says she saw what appears to be fire at the base of that same transmission tower at about 6:20 p.m., snapping this picture.
My husband had come home from work and he ran in the house and just started screaming, "There's a fire on the hill. We need to
Yeah, lawsuit incoming, it seems.
get out." I ran out back, saw the fire at the poles. I immediately called 911.
The winds quickly stoking the fire into an inferno, turning the night sky orange. And at 6:24 p.m., a third resident, Pedro Rojas, taking video of the flames near that electrical tower.
That was the only flames you saw anywhere around?
Anywhere around. There were no other fire, no flames anywhere around because it was so dark that if there were some flames in other places.
Edison International, who owns SoCal Edison, did $200 million in stock buybacks over the summer. Excuse me. They were maxing out shareholder value. They're allowed to do that, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to do that. Do they have a responsibility to protect people that they're serving? No. Hello? That's hard work. Do you understand how hard it is to do stock buybacks? You don't. Stock buybacks hit a lot harder when you don't got a bitch in your ear telling you how insane it is that you're not using that money to harden your infrastructure. Okay? Yeah. This chatter is just mad that there were no other possible investments that could have improved utility. That's called Econ 101. You have to do stock buybacks. Duh. Thank you, Central Committee. Someone who understands fiduciary responsibility, okay? Someone who gets it. I read this in a book, okay? What's next? We're going to talk about widgets of the widget factory. Corporations do not have a fiduciary responsibility to do every single thing possible at the expense of everyone and everything. That's a misconception that corporations use to excuse their behavior. Excuse me. It actually suits my purposes as a rich guy who's a shareholder, okay? So I will continue saying that they have a fiduciary responsibility. They're legally bound to constantly cut corners, okay? To constantly seek out profit and increase shareholder value. What a wonderful system we have in place. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is thinking about the shareholders. Why is nobody thinking about the shareholders? Ugh.
We have noticed it.
On Sunday, we traveled to that Altadena neighborhood to get a closer look.
So Eaton Canyon is below me, and right there is that transmission tower that the Koos say they saw the fire burning initially. It may be one of several, or the first place where the fire started, but that's the tower, at least in the video.
Fire officials telling ABC News they are aware of the videos and that they are part of the investigation. Southern California Edison says while the Eaton fire started in its service area, a preliminary analysis shows no interruptions or electrical or operational anomalies until more than an hour after the reported start.
A prime example of this working out splendidly is Boeing. Yes, sure, a couple planes, experience significant failures, okay? But you know how well the shareholders are making out. Now, of course, one might also point out the reality that, the stock prices have taken major hits as a consequence of these ginormous issues, these ginormous failures that are in broad daylight, very, very public, especially considering that when your commercial airline ends up having a failure such as that one, you kill like around 100 to 200 people in one go, okay? But that's simply a tiny setback, okay? Especially considering that the American government will always have Boeing's back and will always use taxpayer-funded subsidies to make sure that Boeing can land on the right track. We're always good to go.
Time of the fire. The company also says no fire agency has suggested that its equipment caused the Eden fire to ignite.
Now, 24 people lost their lives in this fire, and ABC News has learned that the ATF, the federal agency tasked with examining and investigating explosives and arson, is going to take the lead in investigating the Palisades fire, and arson is one of the factors that they are going to investigate. That is, Governor Gavin Newsom here has demanded an independent investigation into the water issue, specifically here in the Palisades fire hydrants running dry. He called it deeply disturbing, George.
Okay, Matt, questions about power companies as well. And the head of the private power company, Edison International, is going to join us live in our next half hour. The latest developments on the wildfires in California. High winds are picking up again. Want to go to Matt Rivers.
Can't help but be reminded of the power centers being riddled with gunfire. What if it's the same group? What are you talking about? These aren't power centers. These are power lines. It is so sound considering Boeing's ethos was literally the opposite. It was known as the aerospace company led by engineers instead of businessmen. Yeah. Oh.
In Altadena. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, George. Yeah, law enforcement, fire officials have the horrific task of now having to perform grid searches to see if they can find human remains as people remain missing. Not only in homes across Altadena that have burned, but also in businesses like this one. This was a grocery store. This is the kind of place also that firefighters will have to go through this as we are expecting those winds to pick back up. As the death toll rises this morning, the search for the missing amidst the devastation intensifying.
Our Los Angeles County Fire Department using cadaver dogs doing grid searches. I don't expect good news from those.
The death toll now at least 24. Among the casualties, Altadena residents Victor Shaw, Anthony Mitchell, and his son Justin Mitchell, and 84-year-old Charles Mortimer. Officials urging some residents to resist going back home.
A lot of these areas still look like they were hit by a bomb. There are live electrical wires, gas lines, and other hazards.
Many just looking for answers, like Ron McCord, who'd fled the Eaton fire without knowing if his house was okay.
We talked to the police. They said nobody's going through. We saw you guys, and we thought, oh my gosh, maybe they can help.
Unable to pass through police checkpoints, he asked us to go check for him.
Yeah, this is their house. They told us there were stones in front. There was a street sign in front. This is 100% it. And by the looks of it, it's totally gone. There's the remains of a garage in the back there, but the house part here, and they told me they had stone steps in the front. It's totally gone.
So we walked back down and showed Ron what happened, recording with his permission.
This house has survived 110 years.
What's going through your mind as you see this?
It's just my worst fears are confirmed, and it's just sadness.
Ron's story repeated thousands of times over amidst an avalanche of tragedy here. But this morning, there is good news too.
I looked to my side and the dog was seated with its tail between its legs, just curled in the corner of the front yard.
Firefighter Slater Lee from San Marcos, California, fighting the flames, holding a fire hose in one hand while at the same time comforting the stranded dog with the other and getting him safely out of the burning neighborhood.
I was able to scratch his head there for a little bit, and it was a special moment, something that I'll cherish forever.
And Lee stressed to us that he is just a part of a team. It was a team effort, not something solo. As soon as we were done talking to him, he actually had to go back out to the front lines on yet another 24-hour shift. Robin?
They have been so relentless in fighting this. Matt, thank you.
We return now to the hard-hit Altadena area, where officials say the fires have damaged or destroyed at least 7,000 structures, including many, many family homes. Elise Preston is there, and she, like so many people, discovered a personal connection to the devastation. Elise, good morning.
Tony, good morning to you. Nearby, crews are working to contain the Eaton fire before winds pick back up again. But for residents, frustrations are rising. Many say they are unable to return home, and those who are often find nothing. That includes my distant relatives, whom I hadn't met, but was heartbroken after learning that they had lost.
That's crazy. Using newscaster speak when talking about distant relatives is wild.
Just about everything.
As firefighters made progress controlling the deadly flames over the weekend, residents hoping to return to their homes or see the devastated remains became frustrated as they were turned away at checkpoints.
It's what we're all in line for, to just be able to get some of our personal things because we're so afraid that it could go.
Officials say the blockades are for potentially deadly hazards and to keep criminals out. The LA County Sheriff's Department posting this image on social media of a suspect wearing a firefighter's jacket arrested for burglary.
Eager to prosecute anybody who is taking advantage of our residents during this very difficult time.
But those who have made it home often find only smoldering remains. One of those families.
Hi, cousin.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm
Nice
well.
to meet you.
I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Turned out to be my distant cousins.
We keep saying we got to brace ourselves. We got to brace ourselves. Yeah.
We went with Michael and Felita Keeling to see the charred ruins of the Altadena home they bought 25 years ago.
It actually is worse than I thought.
It's worse than you thought?
Well, because I guess from the pictures, I thought maybe like a wall would have collapsed and maybe something would have been still existing, but it's not here.
When the Eaton fire erupted last week, their sons Miles and Preston packed what they could and evacuated the only home they've ever known. They managed to grab a photo album spanning generations of our shared family history.
What does it mean that it was saved? This is the thing that was saved.
Well, I mean, this is what's important. This is the family. This is the thing that's valuable.
Now, my relatives say thankfully they have insurance and plan to rebuild here in Altadena.
Wall Street Journal's coverage. Why did I survive? Altadena residents return home amid LA fires.
It's just so sad to see it all gone.
Using your distant cousins you've never met for a news hit is absolutely insane. I can't stand mainstream news. I just don't understand why you had to mention that you had never talked to them. Isn't it better overall just to say that they're your distant relatives, or to say that they're, to treat them as though you would treat any interview subject? I feel like specifying that they're distant relatives that you haven't talked to ever in your life makes it seem weird. Just say that they're your relatives. Woke of the day. No, I just don't understand. Like, it almost comes across as like you're using them for the segment, which is perfectly valid to do. That is the job of a journalist, for the record. Like, yeah, your job there as a journalist is to showcase the humanity, the victims, and what they're going through. It makes sense. They do that with random people as well. They do that with plenty of random people that they do not know personally or are related to. Okay? I just don't know why. I don't know why she had to put that in there.
This is the neighborhood of Altadena. This is a middle-class, historically black neighborhood. And all around here is just an immense amount of destruction. So many of these houses, all that is left are just the chimneys. Most people aren't able to come back in here because the police, the National Guard have set up checkpoints, but there's still a trickle of people coming in to see the remnants of their homes. And it's really not clear as to what happens next here.
So, you want to take some of your mementos?
This is my mug. It's cracked.
What is it?
No, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, we looked around, so all we found was the skillets, and that's just...
Yeah.
Last Tuesday night, Ellen Soul was at home with no power. We went outside and looked up towards the mountains.
This is behind my house.
Within minutes, she fled. This is her first time back.
I bought this house for myself and my dog, and it has housed me for 16 years. And I was so proud of myself because I did it all by myself. I don't know where I'm going after this. I don't know what I'm doing, because this is going to take a while for them to clean this up. I just want to find closure. I won't come back up here again. I won't come up.
When people fled, they left nearly everything behind, including their cars. Manuel Almanza is a locksmith, going around fitting new keys for the cars that survived.
I need to get something for my truck.
customers call me and say, I don't have any money. I say, it's okay, no worry about it. It's good to help each other, you know. Probably the business is going back, but it probably is not going to be the same. Maybe it's going to take years.
That's awesome that he's doing this. That's dope.
And I feel sad, really. I feel sad. There's nothing I can do, you know.
What a G.
I don't know. It's really messed up here. Yeah.
Some were lucky enough to save their houses. We met Douglas Rogers and his wife Myron as they were leaving their house carrying what they could after stopping the fire with jacuzzi water.
So I'm in my backyard. Before my backyard caught on fire, this is what was going on. My neighbor's house, that's across the street, all that smoke. I have an above ground spa, so I just took some buckets that I had lying around from Home Depot, and yeah, so I'm carrying buckets up the street to my neighbor's house next to us to put those fires out. Saved theirs, which saved ours, which saved the next. And people don't realize they see the flames, the smoke, and they imagine the heat, but the sounds that you hear, gas lines hissing and tanks exploding.
Being home is not going to be home because you're looking at all this. There's nothing else around. It's like, you know, why me? Why did I survive? And then you're among all this destruction by yourself.
To watch, but I think this is infinitely better coverage of this story than the 700 news hits we heard about Paris Hilton's house burning down or whatever celebrity's house burning down in Malibu. That's also tragic because you know, celebrities are still, like, wealthy people are still human beings, and they're losing access to, you know, things that they cherish their possessions that they cherish from their loved ones and whatnot. Okay, but this is a far more consequential impact for a lot of normal people that are simply, you know, like a high school football coach or middle class individuals losing their houses that, you know, they've lived in for generations. You know what I mean? The reality of the matter is, like, these are the people who are, they're going to have a much harder time with insurance companies. They're going to have a much harder time with, like, predatory capital coming in to try to purchase these lots as cheaply as they possibly can. They're going to have a hard time relocating in the process as they try to rebuild their homes. Like, even in an instance where, even during, like, climate crisis, I think what you are watching unfold in front of your eyes is what is going to happen more and more frequently, where wealthy people will always have a way to mitigate the worst aspects of this disaster, especially in terms of recovery and rebuilding. Because a lot of wealthy people also have the capacity to just, like, purchase new things and wait and move to their second home, third home. You know what I mean? And this extends not just to wildfires, but any kind of anthropogenic climate change caused natural disasters.
With almost no rain for 8 months, hillsides and backyards were bone dry.
Americans are the refugees for once, except they have money to use. They have hotels to go to. They have FEMA payouts. They have insurance payouts. They have healthcare. They have legal protections. It's so funny to say they have healthcare and that they have insurance payouts. How is someone like me who was born in America but will never be able to afford land or a house or raise my kids here supposed to feel about all that being taken from the people who are directly responsible for my not having those things? Yeah, you're right. The high school gym teacher in Altadena is responsible for you not having any of those things. You're right. The high school football coach, they voted for slavery. Dude, you are so brain dead. Wow. Look, I have a lot of charity for people that sometimes have a somewhat reactionary approach to victims of natural disaster because of their own conditions being horrible. Okay? But redirecting your anger to people who are identical to you, like virtually identical to you in their class position, is the most insane thing. Okay? We're not even looking at, like, Mel Gibson's 8th house being burned down. You know what I mean? What about North Carolina? No one gives a fuck about them. That's also insane. Imagine if I said, well, North Carolina has a lot of right-wingers who voted for Donald Trump, so they deserve to be destroyed by climate change. Yeah, that would be insane. Okay? That would be insane. That would be ruthless and cruel. Not what I said at all, man. That's not true. I mean, you're doing this You're doing this right now, okay? And even I, who, has an endless amount of charity for people who feel completely screwed over by the systems and therefore have sometimes a reactionary approach to this kind of thing, is telling you, you're recognizing that it's bad when people actually don't care about some victims of natural disasters. This is not one of those communities, obviously, while simultaneously exhibiting that same bad behavior that you recognize as bad for other victims of a natural disaster. I just don't give a fuck about Paris Hilton. I'm not talking about mom and pop shops and shit. No, but you're talking about that when there's a 60-minute coverage that is specifically not talking about Paris Hilton, but specifically featuring a historically black neighborhood, Altadena, okay, where middle-class people live in their generational homes that their grandparents bought when it was infinitely more reasonable. You brought up Paris Hilton. Yeah, I brought up Paris Hilton to specifically say this kind of coverage is infinitely better than Paris Hilton. Okay, that's what I said. I was saying this kind of coverage showing victims of this natural disaster that are infinitely closer to, every other person living in the rest of this nation. And you still chose to, I guess, misunderstand my position, or maybe you feel a little bit embarrassed about what you said and you're trying to do a little bit of ass covering. It's okay. It's all right. You know what I mean? No, stop telling the story that is also valid, which is that when fires are this massive, this expansive, and happening in real time in like three completely separate places, it also becomes like it also becomes virtually impossible. Like, even if you have the best mitigation methods, even if you have the best, even if you have the maximum amount of fire engines and fire hydrants, like, it becomes physically impossible when you have 100-mile winds carrying embers everywhere. Okay, like that's the other issue here, and there's truth to that as well. You can limit it to the best of your ability. And I don't think it's appropriate to just like go, there's no way to prevent this at all, right? And there are certainly issues with the lack of funding that we've talked about extensively. But the reality of the matter is, this is not unexpected, but unprecedented for a reason. Also concerned about right now is the fact that Gavin Newsom has said that they will not have like pesky environmental regulations get in the way of rebuilding fast. And I feel like that is going to make the problem worse down the line. And I am genuinely fearful of this. While I understand that rebuilding fast is very important, I think this is the moment where you're supposed to take extra care and consideration over those environmental regulations and try to make sure that everything that is being rebuilt is hardened so that you don't actually have this exact same issue a couple years down the line. That's what's so crazy about this entire process that I can't comprehend. Like, people are talking about like cutting red tape in an effort to rebuild as fast as possible. And I'm sure that that's what's inevitably going to happen. But the lack of appropriate regulation and implementation of safety measures ahead of this wildfire is the reason why the wildfire damaged and destroyed 12,000 structures in the state of California so far. So I don't know. Because on the one hand, I understand the necessity for rebuilding fast. I mean, people lost their homes. They want to build as quickly as possible, and they want to go back to their homes as quickly as possible and return to normalcy as quickly as possible. There's going to be aftershocks of this in the housing market, and it's already started. You have landlords and massive real estate owners using this opportunity to engage in illegal price gouging, increasing the price points of single family homes by upwards of 100%, like totally illegal, by the way. And I think a smart prosecutor would make short work of people that are trying to engage in this sort of thing, and could potentially even maintain a lot of charity. This would be good politically. You know what I mean? This would reinstill faith in the criminal justice system in the eyes of many people. Are you worried about your property? Not necessarily, but you know, like I said, the way I think about it is, if the fire got to where I am at, that would mean millions displaced at that point. Millions. Crazy how they called it property instead of a home. You sound like a...
But with Santa Ana winds gusting near 100 miles per hour, the choppers were grounded during crucial...
I think a lot of the money, considering the damage is like upwards of $130 billion, according to Wells Fargo estimates, a lot of the money is going to be spent on rebuilding and rebuilding fast. But I think extra money should be spent on hardening the infrastructure, putting these goddamn power lines underneath. Okay? I just don't know how we can sit around and watch these kinds of wildfires occur over and over again in this state and not do something about the infrastructure spending. And if people don't actually do that, if our government doesn't actually do that, this is just going to keep happening over and over again. Although some of the massively consequential wildfires might have started, like the Palisades one, might have started as a consequence of reignition potentially, according to the Washington Post article that we read. There are others that definitely did start due to, and there are plenty of historic examples of wildfires starting due to not moving our power lines underground because it's far too costly for the utility companies. Yeah, Bernie's federal firefight expansion cost only $19 billion. If you want an idea of just how much not doing the Green New Deal was a disaster, exactly. It actually is truly frustrating to watch this happen in my state when it just seemingly happens consistently over and over again. And virtually no one wants to spend that upfront money, because all the tax breaks that we offer the utilities companies, all the subsidies that we give to the utility companies go back to stock buybacks rather than going into infrastructure hardening. And this is a age-old phenomena that keeps reoccurring over and over again. One example that comes to mind is something as simple as like ISPs getting billions of dollars in the 90s. Billions of dollars of tax breaks in the 90s, specifically to improve bandwidth, expand it, improve it, and offer better services, and then never doing it for 4 decades, refusing to do it for 4 decades. And if you don't actually have the regulatory agencies come back and pounce on these major providers, whether it be ISPs or utilities, and demand that they actually follow through on the tax benefits that they were given, okay, then why would they? $200 billion. Yeah. The 1996 Telecommunications Act basically paid for fiber across the majority of the US, and they took the dollars and ran. Yep. So many of the problems that we talk about on a day-to-day basis on this broadcast have solutions that require competent governance, a mechanism of enforcement. Those mechanisms exist. We just never use them. We never utilize them against these major corporations. The government is completely servile to corporate interests. So it's basically used as a way to funnel tax dollars directly back to these corporations and never in a million years enforce the appropriate regulatory pushback that's necessary to make these companies by force do what benefits public interest. And I know for a fact Trump is not going to do anything about it, especially as the Republican Party is currently talking about potentially placing conditions on aid to California. That's right. No conditions. These animals would condition aid to fellow American victims of natural disaster, but never to a foreign ally committing genocide. Monstrous cretins. No conditions to Israel, but conditions to fellow Californians who are suffering from this natural disaster. They're like, yeah, we'll give you conditions as long as, you open up as long as you dam the rivers, redirect water, continue polluting the environment, help out some of our big donors in the agribusiness, and ruin the environment further, accelerating the conditions in which climate change gets worse and worse, which then cause these once-in-a-lifetime natural disasters to happen over and over again. What do they mean by conditions? I mean, one can only speculate at this point what those conditions are. One can only speculate what those conditions are. But it seems like the fact that he's talking about something that Donald Trump has talked about, the Sacramento Delta being redirected into Southern California specifically for agribusiness, seems like that's the condition that they want to implement.
Management, mistakes, all sorts of problems. And it does come down to leadership, and it appears to us that state and local leaders were derelict in their duty in many respects. So that's something that has to be factored in. I think there should probably be conditions on that date. That's my personal view. We'll see what the consensus is. I haven't had a chance to socialize that with any of the members over the weekend because we've all been very busy, but it'll be part of the discussion for sure.
What about the debt limit increase? What about tying the debt limit increase to it?
There's some discussion about that, but we'll see where it goes.
Ugh. This is absolutely unacceptable. Like, I feel like if we had a normal and competent government, and if we had a normal and competent, and competent population, they would look at someone like this and they would punish them. They would be like, this person is never going to be reelected ever again. The party would suffer consequences, penalties for behaving like this. But Americans are so polarized and so primed into hyper-focusing on DEI and random nonsensical bullshit that they just don't even understand what this demon is saying here. California sends billions more to the federal treasury than it gets back in taxes. Cal exit now. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen, but is this after Hurricane Sandy 2? A representative from Louisiana does this after a state has received multiple necessary bailouts. Yeah, Felix also had some words on this. An opposition party that had an ounce of integrity would possibly be able to make an issue over the speaker putting more conditions on aid to Americans suffering from a horrific calamity than he ever would for Israel. Globally, can you point out to a single competent government that works on behalf of public interest and not their own power? I can. You're just not going to like the answer that I'm going to give you, so I'm just not going to give you an answer on that question because it is endlessly frustrating. There are plenty of governments that actually try to do their very best with the limited resources that they have or the expansive resources that they have. As a matter of fact, I'll even give you examples from Western neoliberal capitalist governments as well. There are plenty of countries in, at least historically, in Western Europe that have taken adequate measures to harden their infrastructure in the aftermath of times of crisis like this. But of course, the immediate answers that come to mind would be China, even Mexico, especially if you want to look at a case that is so close and has limited resources. Now, they don't get everything right, but it does not matter. I would go so far as to say that most of the OECD nations, yeah, Cuba is another example, most OECD nations actually do a better job with this than the United States of America does. Like, we are at the tippy top of capitalism supercharged. We are the most hyper-capitalist country on the planet. Yeah, Western Europe isn't the best example. No, I think it's a great example. And the reason why I use Western Europe as an example for this is specifically because when they have issues, when they have a major crisis, they actually work to solve said major crisis rather than continue the same conditions and even, dare I say, accelerate. The example I want to use is not even one of natural disaster, but something that's near and dear to the hearts of Americans, which is gun violence. Okay? The reason why I use Western Europe as an example is specifically because of the nature, the closeness they have to American politics. And while capitalist corporatist interests have also completely gutted their institutions as well, at least historically, when you look to places like the Netherlands, for example, I mean, that's a great example of like hardening your infrastructure to mitigate climate change back collapse. You look at places like, or if you want to talk about gun control specifically, you look at places like Australia, right? Like there are people that take initiative in the aftermath of crisis like this, and instead of playing political games, they go, all right, we have to rebuild. We have to do something to make sure that this doesn't happen ever again. What we previously wrote about and talked about and considered as far as like applying the shock doctrine, right, to territories that America controls, that we exploit, such as Puerto Rico, we do to ourselves in mainland United States as well. Because as profit rates decline, corporate actors will always look to squeeze out what remains of said profits from anywhere and everywhere they can. And yeah, aside from the endless exploitation of the global south, there is always going to be some room for further exploitation, even in mainland United States. Yes, I'm giving a shout out to Naomi Klein, the author of the famous book that I'm referencing, Shock Doctrine. Not to be mistaken with Naomi Wolf, the crazy conspiracy theorist, the crazy COVID conspiracy theorist. I think the shock doctrine no longer simply applies to America's foreign adversaries and America's foreign allies even, that they want to steal resources from, but instead to mainland United States as well. Naomi, of course, featured the impact of the Katrina disaster in her book as well. Having said that, I think that there are more and more cases of opportunists taking advantage of crisis like this to further accelerate the public-private partnership and take advantage of crisis like this.
And over here.
Wait, where did the initial? Oh, here it is. Have you had packs of coyotes running through your hood yet? No.
In today's Health Watch, the growing concerns about air quality in Southern California as those fires continue to burn. Health officials are warning about the risks posed by smoke, especially in older adults, in children, and in people with respiratory issues, pregnant women as well. CBS News Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. John LaPook joins us now. Dr. LaPook, you reached out to me when I was in the field. All of our correspondents, you really care about this issue. How can people protect themselves?
Well, first of all, the California Department of Public Health has some great information. Think about indoors and outdoors. Indoors, close the doors, close the windows. If you have an air conditioner, set it so it's on recirculate, so you're not sucking in the air from the outside that may be full of dust. And then if you have an air filter, air purifier, use that. If you don't, there are do-it-yourself ones with a box fan and filters for less than $100 that you can make. Outdoors, the first thing you want to do is, what's the air quality? So go to airnow.gov, put in your zip code or the name of your town. If the air quality index, the AQI you've been hearing about, is 50 or less, it's considered safe. Higher, the worse. Then minimize your activity, because you do a lot of activity, you're sucking in more air. You know that as an athlete. And then consider wearing a mask.
What's the best mask? We saw a variety of masks on the reporters covering the story.
So one of the things I love about this job is you learn. I spoke to Joe Allen, who's an air quality expert at Harvard, and I learned something new, which is the N95 masks, the KN95 masks that we know from the pandemic, right? They're considered respirators. They filter out the particulate matter, but they are not good at filtering out the noxious gases. So for that, you need a different type of respirator, like the P100 Plus gas and vapor, and that filters out. Those are the ones with the little canisters on either side, and they can filter out those gases. But to be clear, okay, I don't want everybody thinking they need to have that. Those are for people who are close to the smoke, they can't get away, rapid responders scrambling around, and very important, the public health officials and the manufacturers who make these respirators say it can make it harder to breathe in. So if you have heart, lung, or other medical conditions, check with your health professional, and ideally you want to have a good fit.
Got about 30 seconds. What makes this wildfire smoke so dangerous?
You know, it's tiny little particulate matters that go into your mouth, down your breathing, all the pipes, all the way down to those tiny little air sacs, the alveoli. That's how the oxygen gets into your body. So it interferes with that. You can have wheezing, all sorts of problems. We know from 9/11, all sorts of problems from sucking in what turned out to be those buildings that were.
Yeah, I mean, you're inhaling toxic fumes of building matter, many chemical substances. Authorities warn of looting and scams in the wake of California wildfires.
Are warning looters looking to take advantage of the disaster. They will be prosecuted. But we're also seeing so many people come together to help and lift each other up. Kana Whitworth is at Santa Anita Park with more on that. Good morning to you, Kana.
Yeah, Robin, good morning. Look, that support is on full display here. This is the parking lot. It is completely covered with donations here. This has been a community-run grassroots effort to help people in need. And to give you an idea of the scope of this, a lot of people lost everything that they had, and everyone that they know lost everything that they had. So this is a way that the community is just trying to get them the necessities.
This morning, the Los Angeles County Sheriff with an urgent warning to people who are taking advantage of a desperate situation.
Don't do it. Whether it is burglary, looting, or any other crime, whether it's a scam of some kind that you're conjuring up to make money off of the poor people that have been involved in this.
Officials warning burglars, looters, and scammers that they will be prosecuted if they take advantage of people who've been through this tragedy. A curfew order has been established from dusk till dawn in the affected fire zones to protect homes. Authorities increasing patrols and deploying the National Guard to assist. One suspect arrested after they were caught burglarizing a home in Malibu, disguised as a firefighter. The FBI now investigating the drone that collided with the Super Scooper aircraft while it was delivering desperately needed water to the Palisades fire. It will be back in operation today after this hole was punctured in it. Officials warning the public not to fly drones.
This is extremely illegal and extremely...
All right, half of the videos so far have been dedicated to the, a good part of it is dedicated to the community rebuilding and the efforts to help one another. There's been one guy that was portrayed himself as a firefighter to engage in looting inside of Malibu, which is psychotic. Okay. There's a total of, I believe at this point, 29 arrests that have occurred where they were arrested under suspicion of looting. Not every single one of those guys were, interested in looting, most likely. Don't know how many of them have been released so far, how many of them are being prosecuted. But having said that, once again, I will repeat that Los Angeles County, the greater Los Angeles area, is 18 million, almost 19 million people. Okay? Yeah, there are people who will probably get arrested for curfew violations as well, and not necessarily for looting. But let's see how much they talk about the scams and what the nature of these scams are, especially considering that, as I've repeated time and time again, the real looting begins when the insurance company denies your claims. The real looting begins when private equity comes in and tries to purchase your lot that is burned into ashes for a very comfortable price point, much lower than the actual market value. The real looting begins when corporate landlords decide to engage in the act of price gouging, the illegal act of price gouging. This is what I try to reiterate. This is not a defense of a opportunistic charlatan who is so desperate in terms of his own material conditions that he is deciding to engage in a crisis opportunity to make money for themselves by going into a Malibu mansion that hasn't been burned into the ground and try to steal a television. Okay? The price point of such things is so marginal and so inconsequential when you compare it to the real looting, the legalized version of said looting. Look, see, this is what I mean. Look. So you defending looting, they should loot your rich crib. Just example, at Hasanabi, wish no harm. I'm not defending this. This is an indefensible act. Everybody understands that this is an indefensible act. But if you have smoke for this person, okay, then you should understand that the ginormous amount of looting that has already taken place through the legal structure is something you should pay attention to. And it's weirdly enough, not something that the media covers or pays attention to all that much. Okay? It's indefensible. Sometimes looting is necessary in some situations. No, like, come on, dude. Going into a neighborhood that has been charred and want peace, Jesus is king. Okay, the brain capacity of people who go, oh, you're defending looting. I'm not. I'm actually telling you that looting is indefensible while simultaneously telling you why mainstream media doesn't pay attention to the real ginormously consequential looting that happens under the watchful eye of the legal structure, especially if it's done for profit. It's easy to go after small fish, a lot harder when it's a whale. No, I think there's a more nefarious purpose behind that, because we are so conditioned into expecting corporations to behave at the behest of profit that all of that stuff is completely legal. Even when it's technically illegal, like price gouging is illegal. Okay? It's something that people should pay attention to and wonder why. It's something that people should pay close attention to and wonder why the media doesn't actually prime you in that direction and consistently reshifts your attention over to the individual looters, making it seem like it's a far larger problem. Because out of the 12,000 structures that burned down, many of the people that owned those houses are going to be impacted by significantly larger sums of money. Okay? I'll give you an example. I will give you an example. A looter goes into a random home in a neighborhood that is burned down to steal jewelry. This is a completely unacceptable and gross act. Okay? That person is capable of, let's say, stealing upwards of $100,000 worth of jewelry. In the most extreme example that I can give you, in the most extreme hypothetical that I can give you that would favor the argument of like hyper focusing on random looters. Okay? Down the street, there are houses that are burned to the ground. Those houses, let's say, are at least $3 to $5 million. Those lots are purchased by private equity for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. The penalty in that regard, the theft that took place in that regard, is initially conducted by the insurance company that denies your claims. Let's say they don't give you the price of all of the goods that you lost. They never do. That's how they generate profit. Also, on top of that, they don't give you money to rebuild. Okay, so there's at least a couple $100,000 that was shaved by the insurance company right there. A couple $100,000 that were stolen by the insurance company right there for something that you paid for that you are not going to be able to get. Okay, then on top of that, because now you're in a dire financial predicament and your house is burned into ashes and you have no confidence that you can rebuild it ever again. Okay, now you got other opportunists coming in to basically take the land out of your hands. Let's say your house was $3.5 million. They're trying to purchase it at a price point at like $700,000. Now the penalties incurred, the theft that has taken place in one singular home in this neighborhood, the damage done to one singular family in this neighborhood as a direct consequence of this wildfire is in the millions. That's one house. There are 12,000 structures that burn to the ground. And this situation is going to play itself out 12,000 times. The number of the true theft and the real looting that will take place in the aftermath of the rebuilding process that is long, complicated, and obviously litigation will have to take place as well to claw back every single dollar that you technically paid for, is to the tune of billions. So one must ask themselves, okay? One must ask themselves why everyone is so primed into thinking about the one guy that stole, let's say, upwards of $100,000 worth of jewelry, as opposed to the hundreds of billions potentially, if not at least in the most conservative estimate, tens of billions of dollars that were stolen from the hundreds of thousands of people that have suffered major emotional and financial loss in the aftermath of this natural disaster. Think about that. Think about where our priorities lie. Think about why mainstream media covers one aspect of the situation a lot more than they cover the other serialized, systematized form of looting. One is considered the normal machinations of the free market. The other is obviously a criminal element. A lot of people look at this, the system that we exist under, and think like, no, this is normal. A lot of people are skeptical of mainstream media narratives. And yet, for some reason, they never exercise that healthy skepticism when it matters, getting duped by mainstream narratives in this regard, because they feed into your reactionary tendencies. Everyone understands that the person who dresses up like a firefighter to go into to go into a house that hasn't been burned down to steal stuff is an evil person. Okay, everybody understands that, but you never consider the faceless, systematized form of looting that takes place that actually damages a far larger chunk of the population with awards that are upwards of tens of billions of dollars. That's the real looting. And yet, that's also not the real looting that you ever hear about. You rarely ever hear about it in comparison to the looting conducted by individuals. That's simply all I'm saying. Ask yourself why. Now, there's another aspect of the looting that I didn't even mention, which is price gouging. In the process of you trying to rebuild your house, you also need a place to live, right? You need a place to live. And the existing supply of housing market went down and the demand went up. Now you got at least 12,000 single family homes, or even more than that, because it's structures. So there's apartment buildings as well. There are tens of thousands of new rental units that are an absolute necessity for survival. People need shelter to exist. People need shelter. They have jobs, right? They have to be in the approximate neighborhood of where they used to live. And here it is. While despite the fact that there is a law against price gouging, prices have spiked on some LA rentals as fire victims search for places to stay. Some rental listings have shot up above the allowable 10% overnight. I've seen increases of 100%, chat. 100%. And people look to this and go, well, that's normal market conditions. No, it's not. You can say that about price gouging across the board, always. Smaller landlords tend to do stuff like this because they don't know the laws. Okay, first of all, if you think that this is just smaller landlords doing stuff like this, let me tell you, okay, you're wrong. Also, ignorance to the law does not change the dynamic of doing something that is, one, morally repugnant, and two, illegal. Is there even a mechanism of enforcement of this type of price gouging? Yes, there is. You can report price gougers to the prosecutor's office, I believe. But here's the other side of the story. If the media was consistently focusing on this, the real looting that is occurring with a dollar value significantly higher than whatever a singular looter could potentially steal from a house. And if you had a competent district attorney that actually cared about defending victims of a natural disaster, then they would get the word out. And this wouldn't be relegated to TikTok and random people trying to engage in grassroots initiatives to try and report people to their local prosecutor's office. That's it. Like, it's crazy that because the system is so broken that it genuinely requires people to take matters in their own hands. Here's an example of such.
Hi everyone, tutorial on how to find and report predatory Los Angeles landlords who are taking advantage of fire victims and jacking up their prices. Anyone can do this. You don't need to live in the Los Angeles area. All you have to do is go to one of the rental websites like Zillow or Trulia and scroll through listings in the Los Angeles area and look for rental history. My dog wanted me to check this listing out, so I scrolled down to the bottom to look at the rental history, and oh look, this listing was increased by $2,500 a month on the second day of the devastating fire.
How much you want to bet they'll pressure Zillow and Altrulia to no longer show previous rental history numbers or something? It's probably not going to work, obviously. But if I'm in charge of big landlord, that is what I would try to do to try and hide this crime in an effort to combat against this kind of, mass reporting.
That is a price gouge. They are obviously trying to take advantage of people who have lost their homes and need a place to stay. This is my spreadsheet that I'm keeping track of everything. And yeah, anything more than 10% is illegal. So unfortunately for them, we will be reporting them to the Attorney General's office, and they could face fines and jail time. So we will be reporting them. There's a form that you can fill out, and happy hunting. Honestly, these people are predatory, and
who the F can afford this, bro? 7K? Brother, 7K is actually a 56% increase, which is above the legal limit, like significantly above the legal limit. But what's really funny about that is that 7K is nothing. There's properties in Los Angeles that were $15,000 under quote unquote normal market conditions. And now they're going for $30,000 a month. Markiplier mentioned this problem in his newest video around the 620-ish mark, I believe.
Fundraising for. So this is supporting the LA Fire Department, the California Fire Foundation, the World Central Kitchen, Baby to Baby, and CORE.
What's really funny is I saw someone on my subreddit talking about, like, we really got to get better at sending Hassan links with the adequate time codes. And this chatter straight up did the same thing that everyone was complaining about and just sent me a link of Markiplier's video with the incorrect time code instantly. I can't send the link, but FEMA actually created this atmosphere in Maui after the fires. They were offering something like $11K a month for 2 bedrooms for survivors, and it was pricing out people who were there before the fire. That's probably coming to until Trump fucks it up. No, I'm not going to ban them. I'm not going to ban them. Let's continue.
They should be held accountable.
But it's crazy. Like I said, like, I mean, yet another reason why they want to ban TikTok. But it's interesting to think. It's really sad when you think about it that all of these issues are left to individuals who take matters in their own hands. Like, there's just a competent government would immediately ensure that there is a rental price freeze. Okay. That's what you would do. You would say, hey, by the way, tough times. Okay. Sorry to all the big landlords and small mom and pop landlords, but you're not allowed to increase your rental prices. That is crazy. Okay. What do you mean? You want to behave like an opportunist? Like, what the hell are you doing? No, you're not allowed to do that. We're doing a price freeze on rent. Okay? That way, the additional FEMA funds and resources that come in to the victims are not being used to price out the existing people that need places to live in as well. I was gonna say using, and then I realized that use would be better, so I said used. Yes, you got me. You got me, you children. Oh my God. I can never, there's just nothing I can do. This community will always be led by silly billies.
Extremely dangerous.
But also the best of humanity in Santa Anita Park. Thousands coming together to help those in need.
We are giving away free food.
It all started with a TikTok gaining thousands of views. Jerry Martinez, Juan Diaz, and Jimmy Medina
Our corrupt city attorney, Heidi Feldstein Soto, has been conspicuously absent over the past week.
Wanted to give out food in their community, with their efforts inspiring others, and now turning this racetrack parking lot into a massive donation center.
Recently, we've been having so many donations from all over the state. We have wheelchairs, we have coffee pots, we have blankets, we have clothes, we have essentials, hygiene packs. The support from the community has been really, really, really moving.
It is amazing. Another thing that Alex shared with me is that some people lost so much that when they come here to this donation site, they don't even have a bag or anything to take stuff home with them. So they're trying to figure that out. People are having to make multiple trips out here. They saw thousands out here yesterday, and George, they expect thousands more again today and the coming days as well, George.
I'm sure we're going to see that. Okay, thanks very much.
So what is this assessment? Help explain why we need this and what this means for that homeowner.
You got through the state fire marshal, CAL FIRE, working with county partners, teams of 2 go in. They will go in a property like this. They'll assess and they will photograph, and then they will post online after it's verified. About a 12-hour process, and people can go on a website. They don't have to physically be here to know if their property is damaged, and that will then begin the process for the property owner on insurance and getting us to a point where we can start the rebuild process.
How quickly do you anticipate being able to do that?
Well, as I said, I want all the inspections done within 14 days, every single structure that's been impacted by these fires.
So that's thousands of homes.
Thousands of homes, and so that's the mandate. Whatever resources they need, we said we're going to provide it. And then we're looking right now at debris removal. And you're looking at Herculean effort. I'll give you an example. We were just with the inspectors. They say it's a little different world now today with batteries, not just car batteries, but battery packs, people with solar, those Tesla wall batteries and the like. So the hazmat side of this is made a little bit more complicated, which is fine. We'll work through that.
How soon before this house and that house behind you, how long before you envision this neighborhood?
So on the basis of just moving forward to eliminate as many barriers as possible, the current estimate, and you can come back in 2 weeks, and objectively on the basis of new information, I likely would have a modestly different answer. After stress testing the last 48 hours, we think if we get these contracts up and running, we deal with jurisdictional issues between the cities, many cities, and the county of LA and the state, working with our federal partners hand in glove, that we can move forward within 6 to 9 months, get all that debris removed, all the hazardous materials removed. If we get this first 14 days done, that will start that clock.
You're seeing...
Well, you're telling the debris is gone, and I said we want 9 months is the goal. 9 months to a year. You're looking at the magnitude of this, and with the hazmat side, it has to be done in a way that services the long-term needs. And then obviously you're going to learn from this process. Some of the buildings that are surviving, part of their assessment is why did they survive? In so many cases, it's building materials. It's not having the eaves. You see, this is a miracle. This house survived with the old structure where you get those embers that would flow right into the attic, and that structure's gone, making sure that you never see new construction like that again.
And then what about insurance? I mean, we know, we live here. Your house is insured, my house is insured.
Yeah, the one I have, my dad's house is under the FAIR plan, the state's plan.
And it's very expensive.
Very expensive, and it's not great coverage.
Right, so what do you tell people?
We tell them that we are not only assessing all of that in real time and have hired an independent group to look, to stress test, not just the insurance market, but the utility market in California as well. We had that experience after Camp, led to one of the largest bankruptcies in U.S. history, the largest.
My man just dunk on his own state fire insurance, the FAIR plan. Dog, you're the governor. What the hell? I mean, it's true, but it's crazy that he's just like openly recognizing it.
Investor-owned utility, PG&E. From that came a wildfire fund to help stabilize that market. And I say that because we're also mindful of the ongoing investigation as to the cause of this. And part of that cause determination, no one has an understanding fully yet of what caused these fires beyond just hurricane force winds, unprecedented winds, in the driest conditions since the 1850s as it relates to this dry January here in Southern California. Combination of those two things, but was it a utility line? Who's responsible? Was it ours? All those things are being determined. And so we're just stress testing the worst case scenario. If it was a utility, what does that mean to the utility market? As it relates to insurance, what does it mean to private insurers? Who are the insurers? We've been making a lot of reforms in our insurance market, and we'll need to make subsequent reforms.
Something that's particularly pressing for this community you're standing in is lack of insurance. A lot of people inherited homes or were working class. Yeah. What about people who didn't have insurance?
And that's going to be the most difficult and challenging thing. And that's where FEMA comes in. That's where the SBA comes in. That's where the state of California comes in. That's where the federal government comes in. That's where philanthropy comes in. People have lost their lives. They've lost their businesses. They've lost hope. And we've got to restore the hope and then restore their lives and businesses and opportunities.
J.D. Vance was on television today talking about lack of competency on your part.
Okay.
What do you say to? You've heard this almost every single day.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him. Hurricanes that were attached to fires, unprecedented wind experiences, heroic firefighters from all across the United States. We got folks from Texas, we got folks from Wyoming that have been pounding on this, the best next-gen technology. We've got these fire hawks, guys with night vision goggles, pounding these fires 24/7. We've got thousands of National Guard men and women that have been on here. We pre-positioned 120 engines, helicopters, dozers, water tenders. We did that on Sunday, 2 days before this event. So with respect to the future vice president, I didn't hear his remarks, but I would invite him, as I did Donald Trump, to visit with the community, express empathy of the scale of this tragedy, and be here for the American people that happen to reside here in Southern California.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Where do you source your chicken? Just wondering, because eating a lot of animal proteins can be harmful if every single day from the wrong places. These are the reasons why I both love and hate Twitch streaming. I don't know where I source my chicken from, man. From Ralph's. That's where I source my chicken from. Anyway, I just realized you guys got your conservatives, Republicans in charge, and your Lib Dems, Democrats as your opposition. Your whole system is right-leaning. You don't have a Labour Party. I know, but like, look at the UK. The UK has a Labour Party, and it's turning into a Democrat-Republican style structure there as well. Anyway, Question, is a 10% increase limited to California and only after disasters? Yes. Every state has their own price gouging mechanisms. Anyway, here, we'll watch Markiplier's video as well. And then we'll move on to Biden talking about the there's a brief Elon Musk bit here as well. I just wanted to talk about Elon positively embarrassing himself when the firefighter tells him he's full of shit and then immediately ending the stream. Perfect. Let's take a look.
So, all right. What about water availability? Was water availability? I understand that was like not an issue in Malibu. Is that correct?
Was it water?
Well, yeah.
So there was water. We have several reservoirs that Encinos that we use a lot. Now, just an example, if we have one building burning, we could flow 1,000 gallons a minute on that one building with the hose legs that we put in to stop it. You can imagine 1,000 gallons per house we couldn't do, right? So the amount of water we're flowing, there really is no water system that's going to keep that pace. So we have to bring in water tenders, which are these big tank water tanks that, 2,500, 3,000 gallon trucks, and they'll come in. And that's what we have to do to compensate. So
Incredible aspect ratio from the guy who owns the website that he's filming this video on. Ironically, he's also doing this specifically to cut like right-wing commentary and still failing to do a good job.
So they park out there, do it. DWTP did a great job. They brought in big water trucks for us, and we use them as basically mobile hydrants.
All right.
Right, and then we have our own agency as well that has water tenders.
Okay. My understanding is that like along the correct me if I'm wrong. In Malibu along the coast, there was no shortage of water. In the Palisades, there was a shortage of water at a certain point. Or is that not accurate?
Well, we were flowing just an amount of water that the system couldn't overbear. We're just overbearing, just because of how much water these firefighters were utilizing.
Okay.
How can you think this guy's Adrian Dittman, dude? He can't ask a single normal question without going, Anyway, I mean, both are losers. That's true. And they're losers in the same identical way. Anyway, but yeah, the conversation takes place. He tries to hit him with the, well, what about the waters? What about the waters? And the guy's like, no, we had enough water.
All right. Sounds good.
Has water tenders.
Okay. My understanding is that like along the, correct me if I'm wrong, in Malibu along the coast, there was no shortage of water. In the Palisades, there was a shortage of water at a certain point. Or is that not accurate?
Well, we were flowing just an amount of water that the system couldn't overbear. We're just overbearing, just because of how much water these firefighters were utilizing.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. I guess there was enough water. USI. I'm glad he found a non-DEI firefighter, though, because I know his audience would not be receptive if it was a DEI firefighter who told him there was enough water. Anyway, let's watch Markiplier talk about his own experiences evacuating from the LA fires.
At 4 a.m. on Wednesday morning last week,
Didn't the firefighter basically just say they ran out of water? Elon Musk asked the commonly held gripe that Republicans have escalated and elevated over and over again about how the reservoir simply did not have water. There was tremendous water mismanagement. He addressed it and said, no, there was plenty of water. And the only reason why anyone ever ran out of water is because there is no way to use fire hydrants and engines to combat a wildfire like this. Like, the system is not capable of handling this level of this much fire, which is understandable. This is something that virtually every single professional said initially. Markiplier is out in the streets clearing roads with a chainsaw for his neighbors while Hassan stuffs his face. Mark starts a fundraiser so companies can't steal people's burnt down properties for pennies on the dollar. Hassan just lazy, lackadaisical ass. Even the way he talks, like he's sleepwalking, lazy intonation comes from having a very easy laid back life of no strife. This is bait. Yeah, I think this person is not mentally well. We got a Mark shooter. Well, I just don't understand. Like, why would there be any antagonism between me and Markiplier, a random content creator? And also, I have done, I have been out there. Maybe you weren't paying attention. Sorry that I haven't been out there rebuilding houses brick by brick or something, but very strange. He doesn't like my style of commentary. Well, you haven't chainsawed. This is true. I have not chainsawed. You got me there.
I got a message on my phone along with a bunch of blaring alarms saying that we needed to evacuate, which was a very novel experience. If you don't know why, and you haven't been looking at the news at all, there's been a lot of fires in LA because of a windstorm that occurred last Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we had, battened down the hatches, tried to clean up, bring stuff in from outside, prepare for the windstorm because the windstorm was unprecedented. It was going to be intense and there was a danger of fire during this wind event. And it just so happens that the Palisades caught on fire, and then another fire on the opposite side of town, closer to where I am, called the Eaton Fire, broke out after that. And so that fire quickly got out of control. I could actually see it, which was a very weird experience. Out my window, I could see the fire. But yeah, that's what it was. And the night before, when we saw the fire, we were of the mind that we needed to be prepared to go, which is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Whenever you have a fire in the area, you have your go bags ready. You have the most important belongings in there, so you can just grab the bag and you can chuck it in your car and you can get out. Because if a fire is coming, especially with winds of this intensity, you need to get out immediately. And so we were prepared to do that. And we were listening to the news. Big shout out to Watch Duty, the app. I only found out about it last week, but that was instrumental in getting information about where to go and where the fire was and what was happening on a minute-to-minute basis. But yeah, so we had to evacuate, and that was last week. And so we only got back. They lifted the evacuation order only a few days ago, so we got back in just a couple days ago. And the fire didn't do any damage to my place, but the windstorm still had damage left over that wasn't able to be cleaned because everyone had to evacuate. So I actually spent most of the past couple days with my chainsaw, and I was going up and down the street just cutting down trees and trying to get them out of the road, because I didn't imagine that there was going to be a lot of access to cleanup crews, or they were already going to be stressed. And the cleanup in the places that actually have been affected by the fires hasn't even begun yet, because there's another windstorm that's that they're showing is going to happen later on Tuesday evening. I think it was a early morning Wednesday or late Tuesday, depending on when it lands, and that's going to go until Wednesday evening, I think. And it's not going to be as strong as a previous wind event, but it's going to be pretty intense, which is, having back-to-back storms like this. I think they said there's only been 5 warnings of this level in this area ever. And so the 4th and 5th were within a week of each other. And so that's concerning for many other reasons. There is definitely a risk of more fires after this windstorm coming up in a couple days, and they could erase a lot of the progress that is being made on containing the fires that are in LA right now. So this is not a situation that's over just yet. There's still a lot to do to clean up. And one of the most important things is after the fires have been taken care of and put out, there's going to be months and months and months of recovery efforts and rebuilding efforts. And there's going to be a lot of shitty people trying to take advantage of the people who have been displaced or their houses have burned down. Because a lot of people, when they think of LA, they just think oh, that's where all the celebrities are. That's where all the rich people in the Palisades, they had their houses burned down. But it's, LA is an extremely large and diverse city with a ton of history and a ton of places in it that all fall under the umbrella of, what's being affected by these fires. Altadena specifically is a very old neighborhood with a lot of really deep history that I can't even touch the surface of in this little informational blurb that I'm making here. But I can only imagine what's going to happen afterwards. There's about 5,000 homes. They haven't been able to confirm yet, but there's estimated 5,000 homes that are completely gone, unrecoverable. Like the only thing left standing is a chimney. I'm sure you've seen some pictures, but seeing it firsthand is completely different. I mean, it's just heartbreaking.
Yes, supporting child labor. The children yearn for the fires. Hassan likes when the incarcerated children do the work law. All those muscles, but no muscling. I mean, wasn't he on Fox supporting unpaid incarcerated child labor and hazardous working conditions? Chainsaws are pretty easy to operate, dude. Go get your hands dirty, law. Dude, you are so mentally disabled. There is nothing I can tell you. You think I can do a hotshot job? Like, you think I can, without any training whatsoever? go into a wildfire, not just clear out debris like Mark did here for his neighbors' homes and the roads around his house, but like that random individual should take matters in their own hands? Are you fucking that stupid? What are you saying, dude? Please, wake the fuck up, dumbass. Please, no one try to take matters in their own hands like this fucking dipshit, okay? You will only end up being a burden to the emergency services. How many times do I have to describe this? God damn, dude. Dude literally said, why don't you go dive into the wildfire without any training whatsoever and clear out the debris and create lines while simultaneously missing the point about the rehabilitation and reintegration programs that are very successful in the state of California, one of the worst carceral states in the country. I forget that there are just morons everywhere online, and they have moronic opinions. Holy fuck, his first post today. Hey, dude, I just wanted to say that as someone who worked advocating for incarcerated and institutionalized youth rights, I have a pretty big problem with the whole incarcerated youth firefighters, no hazard pay, manipulation, forced labor. I don't know, dude, they're kids. Yeah, that person is so brain broken that they think that I'm talking about like literally children. You do realize, chatter, that I just banned, they're not actually like children right now. They are youth offenders, specifically violent youth offenders that have been added into the pilot program. That doesn't mean that they're still in their youth. Every single person I interviewed was, around the age of 25. Yeah. Also, simultaneously acting like I'm on board with them not getting hazard pay is so insane. It's so far removed from the truth of the matter. My advocacy specifically revolves around some of the good aspects of this program, while also simultaneously highlighting some of the immediate necessities of improvement. There is no possible avenue of normal discourse with people who operate like this. I don't know what to say. Like, this is a dude who is just, I'm shocked, is still alive. Like, how did you survive this long? I guess modern medicine is just keeping your ass alive as you desperately try to kill yourself through, the normal day-to-day processes that a baby could get through. Opening a door could be a lethal event for a chatter with that kind of brain process.
You hear stories of people that have been in their homes for, or had their homes in their family for like 100 years. And it was, passed down, or there's deep history in it, or they've been building a business for 20, 40 years, and it's just gone, The other thing that brings a tear to the eye is the amount of goodwill that's been pouring out of the community. The amount of people that have donated to relief shelters, the amount of animal shelters and people that are fostering pets right now, and the people that are willing to lend a hand, it truly is heartwarming in a way that I very rarely see in a community come together. Not only are people like all across the country trying to contribute, but even here, donation centers have to turn away people from donating things because they are overflowing with materials and supplies for the people affected by the fires. They are literally stuffed to the brim. And, Amy and I, we went down to donate what we had, and we tried to figure out which ones they needed. But as we got there was a line wrapped around the block of cars just trying to get in there and drop things off. They had an army of volunteers at the donation center that we were at. Even we thought it was a small one. This is like small comparable to like the Rose Bowl, where there was basically an army camp set up just to help people. Like, it was beautiful. And so we donated what we could, and, it's just like they couldn't take everything that we had just because they had so many, or they were prioritizing different things. So that is good. That is really good. I know there's a lot of you out there that probably want to help. And one of the things that I have put in the description is a Tiltify campaign that was set up for LA wildfire relief. Let me just review which ones that they are fundraising for. So this is supporting the LA Fire Department, the California Fire Foundation, the World Central Kitchen, Baby to Baby, and CORE, which stands for Community Organization Relief Effort. And so this fund is going to all those organizations which provide direct help to people on the ground for this. But the most important thing for me is that after there's going to be a lull in attention. That's why I want to make sure that it's prioritized, that the rebuilding effort in these areas that have burned down, especially in Altadena, are done in a way that is not predatory to the people that had those houses or had that land, right? And you can only imagine that some conglomerate or some company is going to swoop in, try to offer these properties that are no longer existing for pennies on the dollar so they can scoop it up and try to build
Respect to Mark for being, aware of some of these inadequacies in the system and openly talking about them.
Build to exploit the area. And that's exactly what I don't want to happen. So I'm going to find ways to get involved personally. I don't have any resources to tell you guys how to get involved in that, but that's just something that I want to do because, it's very easy to forget, once the urgency and the emergency is over, it's very hard to sustain the effort of building. The more motivating thing for me is to kind of put some purpose into it, some purpose into helping the people in the long term, which is the harder thing to do. It is the harder thing to help over a long period of time because other things will happen across the country and the world that'll need attention. But right now I'm here. I was right next to it. I was lucky enough that, my house is okay. Who knows, in a week, the winds might pick up. I might not be so lucky. But right now, I see what's happening and I can see what might happen in the future and I can see the need that's there. So I'm going to do something about it as soon as I figure out the best way that I can help, even if it's just getting out of the way or even if it's just advocating or even if it's just, picking up a hammer, trying to help rebuild. I'll do whatever I can. So anyway, there's more of an update to tell you where I am because I don't think anybody actually knew that I had to evacuate. It was so fast and so early in the morning that, there wasn't any time to prepare or plan, and whatever we planned for and prepared for happened. I have a lot more stories to tell about this because it was quite a journey of watching all this unfold and seeing the new fires crop up and wondering if they were going to spread or be contained, and then seeing the heroic efforts of all the firefighters and all the people coming together. It was crazy this past week, but it's more than I can tell in an update video. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you everybody so much for caring about me, asking about me. I'm fine. Cheek and Henry and Amy are fine.
What is the point of him even making this video? Is he just bragging about how much he donated to charity and how good of a person he is? That's what your takeaway was? Millionaire brags about helping people with this expensive equipment. You have access to lots of water because of the pool in your backyard in your mansion, though. Why not use some of it to put out fires? Surely it could help a little. Thanks, man. Thank you for your wonderful contributions of doing perhaps the lowest effort bait I've ever read in my entire life.
We're all good and we were lucky. But the important thing to remember is that some people weren't. So there's a link in the description to the fundraiser, and then I will look into ways that I can help. Pretty much the only way that I've been able to right now is just driving around with a chainsaw and helping to clean up some of the mess that was left behind. So I know that sounds menacing, driving around with a chainsaw, but later on I'll tell you about how the police stopped by and asked me what I was doing. Nothing came out of it. I wasn't arrested or anything, but I realized how weird it was. Anyway, I'll tell that story later. That doesn't matter. But anyway, I'm gonna get to work. There's still a ton of cleanup to do. I don't think I'll be able to get back to regular videos anytime soon because I got to see how this windstorm is gonna play out. And that'll change things if it causes any more problems or starts any new fires. That's gonna, we just got to see how that goes.
Yeah, Markiplier is a really nice dude, good guy. All right, when people respond that way, is it like some guilt complex, like they're in distress guilt about not being able to help, so they lash out? I think people are just sad, man. That's it. If you want to understand the psyche of an internet troll, they've existed in perpetuity. They're just like sad people and very cynical people, so they automatically assume the worst in people. And if someone is just like not even giving you an opportunity, and Mark is the type of person who is limited with his online footprint, as limited as one can be, despite being an online content creator, they just immediately try to make that a bad thing. Like, it's really interesting to think about because, like, especially with Markiplier, who's a beloved content creator who's been around for a very long time, much longer than I have been, like, finding a way to shit on him for this video is pretty crazy. Like, I understand why so many people yell at me all the time, no matter what I do, because I have a lot of enemies. I have a lot of ideological opponents. I have a lot of content creators who make a living off of saying I'm a bad person. So, of course, their rabid fan bases will find anything and everything they get mad at. But it's like shocking to do that to someone like Markiplier. And the question I always have in my mind basically is like, if your first inclination is like, how can I turn this around and make everybody feel the way I feel, the anger and resentment that I have towards someone who is a beloved content creator like Markiplier, is if that's your first inclination, it's like, well, what are you doing? You must ask the question to yourself, what are you doing? What have you done to help? Have you donated anything? Have you given your clothes? Have you gone outside and cleared debris? Or is your only contribution to yell about someone explaining their own experience and using their massive platform to do fundraising initiatives for people who are trying to solve the problem? You know, that's it. We're going to be talking about Biden's final remarks as president on foreign policy now. And then we're going to move on to...
Today, I can report to the American people.
And then we're going to move on to the other story, top news story of the day, the situation in Gaza.
People, our adversaries are weaker than were when we came into this job 4 years ago. Just consider Russia. When Putin invaded Ukraine, he thought he'd conquer Kyiv in a matter of days. But the truth is, since that war began, I'm the only one that stood in the center of Kyiv, not him. Putin never had. And we laid the foundation for the next administration so they can protect the bright future of the Ukrainian people. Many experts believe or predicting it was inevitable that China's economy would surpass ours. According to many predictions, that would happen by the year 2030 or shortly thereafter. But we in this room said no. If we make the investments in ourselves, we protect our workers and technologies, that will not happen. Now, according to the latest predictions, on China's current course, they will never surpass us, period. And in my administration, we've seized more fentanyl at our border in 2 years than the previous 5 years combined. Today, I can also report to the American people, we're the first president in decades who's not leaving a war in Afghanistan to his successor. And on the war between Israel and Hamas, we're on the brink of a proposal that I laid out in detail months ago, finally coming to fruition. And as we deal with immediate challenges,
Joe Biden will be remembered as an incompetent old fool and the man who oversaw and supported the genocide of Palestinians. That is how he will be remembered in history books. And perhaps to add insult to injury, Trump will most likely, at least in the early stages, be accredited with the hostage negotiations coming to fruition. Part of that is because, and I said this literally a year ago and repeated over and over again, that I suspect Benjamin Netanyahu knows that Trump has his best interest in mind and also is a more reliable pro-Israel person than even someone who is ideologically committed to the Zionist project like Joe Biden. Since day one, Joe Biden had the opportunity to stop what Israel was doing. On October 10, he could have done so if he wished to do so, but he did not. This is not simple incompetence. This is not Israel dog-walking Biden. This is the grand design that the American State Department had for the region coming to fruition. He could have stopped it at any point and chose not to do so. And the only way to try and stop the further bloodshed was, could he? Question mark. Yes, he could. People who personally believe that Israel controls the American government is a Zionist occupied government or whatever, silly Nazi things that people say, fail to comprehend that Israel would not exist without unlimited American support. This is precisely the reason why numerous presidents have stopped Israel from engaging in further bloodshed. Joe Biden himself stopped Israel from engaging in further bloodshed in 2021. All it took was a phone call. Israel is an American state in the way that it functions. Okay? It's seen as a foreign ally so that there is a level of a removal of responsibility in the hands of U.S. empire to a certain degree. But ultimately, when America says jump, Israel says how high. Now, you pre-watch the current events, you can't be right this often. Yeah. If I'm a stupid person and I can see it from the outside, I'm pretty sure these guys can see it as well. Every single person was knowledgeable on what Israel was doing. Every single person. If we saw it here, if we saw it here on twitch.tv/Hasanabi, every other person also saw it. Every person in a position of power also saw it. There were some people who were like, Israel's a sovereign nation. The U.S. can't make them do whatever they want. Look at this. Look how easy it is. While Prime Minister Long pushed for a temporary ceasefire that amounted to the first phase of the three-stage proposal Israel submitted in May, the deal being finalized is increasingly closer to the original offer, clauses connecting first phase with two others, making it harder for Israel to resume fighting. There is no point where America was not almost singularly responsible for all of the atrocities that unfolded. Do you understand me? They would not have been able to do the consistent bombing campaigns without the United States of America's continued arms transfers. We are responsible for this genocide. Joe Biden is responsible for this genocide. Anthony Blinken is responsible for this genocide. They did it even though the overwhelming majority of the public wanted it to end. They continued doing it even though there was an election that was coming up where this would be a major issue for the party in charge, and they still continued doing it. They tried to lie to the public through mainstream media over and over again. They undermined the existing little confidence that people had in mainstream media for accurately reporting on information. They destroyed it. They destroyed the last semblance of credibility that mainstream institutions had. And then as people recognized right from wrong, because they went on social media, places like TikTok, where they saw the reality with their own two eyes, they decided to ban TikTok, which I'm going to be talking about with my guest that literally just now showed up at my house, at my doorstep, Christian Divyne, in a little bit. I just have to finish this rap really quickly before he gets in.
In my view, we have to look to the future. I urge the next administration to carry forward two issues that have been central to my presidency and which shape the future, in my view. On artificial intelligence, we are in the lead, and we must stay in the lead. We must not offshore artificial intelligence, as we once did with computer chips and other critical technologies. And likewise, clean energy transition, race ahead, years to come. I know some in the incoming administration are skeptical about the need for clean energy. They don't even believe climate change is real. I think they come from a different century. They're wrong. They are dead wrong. It's the single greatest existential threat to humanity. Throughout my career, the world has undergone tremendous change, but certain things have always held true. At our best, America leads not only by the example of our power, but the power of our example.
Let me clear this up real quick. I'll bring you in. Hold on. Holy fuck. Biden says he's leaving Trump a stronger country is just a way for him to basically do a little bit of ass covering here after all of the untold amounts of cruelty that he subjected the rest of the planet to. This is perhaps one of the larger reasons why he lost to begin with. But here's the CNN coverage on the matter. Hamas official Gaza ceasefire deal with Israel is very close. We're going to look at the details of this, and then I'll talk with Christian on the subsequent TikTok ban, which is, in my honest opinion, a lot closer to this story than you would think.
To a Hamas official, a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza is, quote, very close, but sticking points remain. Talks are ongoing in Qatar. President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have been discussing negotiations by phone. That happened on Sunday, their first publicly confirmed conversation since October. CNN's Jeremy Diamond live for us in Jerusalem this morning. Jeremy, what can you tell us about the state of these talks and why they seem to be accelerating here?
Well, Casey, it's clear that these parties are nearing the final stages of negotiations for a comprehensive ceasefire and hostage deal, but the question still remains as to whether or not they will get this deal across the finish line. A Hamas official telling us that several sticking points still remain in these talks, including over a proposed Israeli buffer zone inside the Gaza Strip where Israeli troops would remain, and details concerning the release of Palestinian prisoners, among several other sticking points as well. But over the weekend, we did see some really concrete movement in the right direction towards a deal. First of all, with the Israeli Prime Minister agreeing to dispatch the Mossad director, David Barnea, who has led the Israeli negotiating team at key junctures in these talks in the past. He was only supposed to travel to Doha, Qatar, if indeed there had been significant progress. So that was the first point. We also saw President-elect Trump's incoming special envoy for the Middle East meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister, conveying very clearly not only the Biden administration's pressure to get a deal before January 20th, but the incoming Trump administration's position agreeing with exactly that, trying to get a deal before President-elect Trump is indeed inaugurated 1 week from today. And now we are seeing all of these parties kind of rowing in the same direction, trying to get a deal in Doha, Qatar, but that doesn't mean that a deal is assured. All of the sources that I have been speaking to today have made clear that while things are very, very close here, they simply cannot guarantee an outcome at this point. And part of that stems from uncertainty over whether or not Hamas and Israel will have the political will to get a deal across the table. And of course, here in Israel, there is this question of politics still being at play. The Israeli Prime Minister over the weekend meeting last night, in fact, with Bezalel Smotrich, that far-right finance minister who in the past has threatened to pull the rug out from underneath this coalition government if indeed the Israeli Prime Minister reaches out and agrees to a deal. Today, in less than 24 hours after Smotrich met with Netanyahu, he took to Twitter to lambast this draft agreement that appears to be nearing potential conclusion, calling this deal on the table a, quote, catastrophe, describing it as a surrender deal, and urging the Israeli government to continue fighting in Gaza until Hamas fully surrenders to Israel. So a lot still at play here, Casey. Certainly some positive momentum, but uncertainty still remaining, as always.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs, we got Christian Divyne in the building. TikTok extraordinaire, friend to many friends of the show. This is our first time meeting.
Actually,
and it's a rather awkward introduction. I apologize. I was in the midst of trying to shovel my food in my daily eating hour, but glad to have you here. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things today, but so far, is this your first time in LA or no?
Second time, but first full, I've been here a week. So, yeah.
How do you like it so far? What happened? You just came in the worst possible moment you could have.
The worst, I flew in and the plane wouldn't properly land because the fires were literally just starting. So no, this is the worst possible time to be here. But it's cool. It's things been chill. It's a cool place. They don't have big dogs.
Yeah, she's still a puppy, but I'm actually wearing my merch with her on it.
Oh, word.
Yeah. All right. Well, Christian, for those who don't know, how would you describe yourself? What are your political leanings?
Pretty far left leaning. I consider myself a socialist, super hard cut. Yeah, I just say straight up socialist, and whatever follows up with whatever you assume about that.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. And how long? What were you doing before TikTok?
Theater. I still do theater, but theater's my
classic.
Yeah.
Classic theater kid.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been on TikTok? Because that's where you popped off, right? That's where you started.
Yeah, since 2021. The first social media thing I ever did. But yeah, January 2021. So it'll be 4 years. Probably today specifically.
Okay, so not to be audio Andy, but it'd be helpful if you could increase his microphone audio. Is that what it is? Is that
should I be right in it?
Cutting out? Ask about if his dad is a socialist. Wait, why?
My dad's a vampire. It's a whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Literally, it's very. He used to sleep in a coffin. It's hard to explain, but yeah. My dad's not a socialist. That man is a capitalist till he dies.
Yeah, same. I feel that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were going to talk about the TikTok ban and what that will do to your career potentially as a TikTok content creator, first and foremost. But aside from that, we're currently in the process of covering this breaking news story where Hamas is seemingly very close to an agreement with Israel. And it seems as though the Trump train is here. There's a lot of pressure that have been applied by the Trump administration through, harsh words. And obviously, and I know you follow this stuff closely as well, you are familiar, as am I, as are many people in this community, that the only hurdle in the pathway towards finalizing a ceasefire agreement, a permanent ceasefire agreement, has never really been Hamas.
No.
It has never been Hamas whatsoever. Hamas has actually brought forth, I believe, more than 39 different ceasefire negotiations since October 10. Since October 10, 2023, not October 10th, 2024. Some of these agreements most of the agreements, including the one that was finalized and voted by the UN at the General Assembly on, were direct Hamas proposals. Joe Biden famously presented it as an Israeli proposal. And yet, even though it was supposed to be an Israeli proposal, Israel was the party that refused to sign on to the proposal. Israel also continued killing numerous civilians, the tens of thousands. We will unfortunately not know the true estimate of the death count, even though Lancet says that the direct death counts are up to 46,000, which is a dramatic undercount, and that the number of casualties is a direct consequence of Israel shutting off all of the hospitals and destroying the electrical grid and destroying all semblance of civil society and civil life in the Gaza Strip, means that the number is far, far larger than that. Israel's also obviously in the process killed almost every single journalist and engaged in what is known as a scholasticide, a deliberate targeting of scholars in the Gaza Strip, and the destruction of virtually every single institution of education in the Gaza Strip as well. But also, in terms of the conversation surrounding this ceasefire process, Israel assassinated the principal negotiator, the civilian chief of the Hamas Politburo, Ismail Haniyeh, when he was visiting Tehran on Iranian soil. A double Monty, if you will, assassinating the principal negotiator who had never held a weapon. Okay, something to remember, something to consider. The leader of Hamas at the time and the principal negotiator in the ceasefire talks. Yet another instance of Israel openly showing the rest of the world that they are not interested in a real ceasefire whatsoever and only continuing the death and destruction campaign. There are a multitude of different reasons as to why Israel continued this death and destruction campaign, this genocide. There are selfish reasons and personal reasons, like the one that Benjamin Netanyahu, the reasons as to why for Benjamin Netanyahu's personal gain is because he doesn't want the prosecution that he was able to put a stay on because of October 7 to continue once he is removed from office. And I suspect something that I've talked about quite a bit was that much like Ronald Reagan, I believe Donald Trump also cut a side deal with Benjamin Netanyahu when he was running for office. This was, of course, still preventable by a competent administration in charge, like the one that Joe Biden was not, that could have said, you're done. You're stopping this genocide immediately. And they could have done this at any given point. And yet they chose not to do so because of their grand design for the region before they gear up for the real enemy, the larger enemy, the more consequential enemy, China. Having said that, however, there is a ceasefire negotiation. I don't know if you read into this at all, if you're familiar with this.
Newest ceasefire negotiation, no.
Here's Jeremy Scahill saying, important to note that the Gaza ceasefire deal that may be reached soon is overwhelmingly consistent with the deal Hamas officially agreed to on July 2nd. Biden allowed Netanyahu to torch that deal and continue the genocide with a steady flow of U.S. weapons and political support. Here's one of the stories I wrote about in the Gaza ceasefire exchange of captives deal that could have been signed in the summer and how the U.S. facilitated Netanyahu's sabotage. The dominant U.S.-Israeli narrative is that it has been Hamas hindering or obstructing the ceasefire deal in Gaza, and that is an epic lie that Anthony Blinken has promoted more than anyone else on the planet. All right. Hassan, let the boy speak, Lamont. Okay, you're right.
No. I'm chilling. I'm just here, dude.
Yeah, I wanted to cover this stuff to the best of my ability first and foremost and give you guys a little bit of background, but that is the case. Also, here is Noga Tarnopolsky reporting, in case you were wondering, the Philadelphia axis, which was a major point of contention that Benjamin Netanyahu utilized in the Netzarim corridor. Those are two specific lines that they wanted to cut through Gaza, the Philadelphia corridor being the southernmost point that connects the Gaza Strip with Egypt, that borders Egypt, and the Netzarim corridor that goes across the Gaza Strip, separating it in half. Those were points of contention that Benjamin Netanyahu added on to the ceasefire negotiation with the express purpose of continuing the bombing campaign and basically putting it in as a poison pill provision into the ceasefire negotiations. This reality was completely ignored by mainstream institutions in the United States of America. This reality was completely ignored by the State Department. They actually actively lied about Benjamin Netanyahu actively undermining the ceasefire talks. You know what this reality was? Who didn't ignore this reality? The hostage families in Israel. They openly penned letters to Israeli publications at the time, damning Benjamin Netanyahu to hell, openly stating him as the only pathway towards peace and a ceasefire negotiation and a way to finally permanently secure the well-being of the immediate family members that were being held hostage in Gaza. Okay, I'm not interviewing Christian right now. Shut the fuck up, okay? Shut up. I'm not doing that, okay? This is not an introduction. This is not an interview. I'm covering the news currently. We will get to that in a second. Would you have rather had me make Christian sit over there outside as I continue to explain the situation?
That's it.
Go ahead.
Please chill out, y'all. That's all.
Yes, I permit that person for that. I did. And yes, I do talk to them like this all the time. They need to be yelled at.
I mean that's real. That's a lot of people.
Yeah. All right. In any case, the great achievement of the dramatic victory of which one said that anyone calling for Israel's withdrawal from it was a leftist traitor funded by the defeated Americans. The IDF will withdraw 100% from the Philadelphia axis in the phase 1 of this deal, according to Chaim Levinson of Channel 12, I guess. Or is he Channel 12 or is he Haaretz? I don't know. It's in Hebrew. Okay. So this could have been avoided. The past 7 months of death and destruction did not need to exist. And yet it happened. I can't begin to explain how much I hate Biden in the midst of all of this. But here is Jacob Maggot from Times of Israel. Trump's Mideast envoy Steve Witkoff held a tense meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu on Saturday night, during which the former leaned hard on the Israeli premier to accept compromises necessary to secure a hostage deal by January 20th. Two officials familiar with the matter told Times of Israel. Witkoff's pressure on Netanyahu appears to have had an effect, with the two officials familiar with the negotiations saying that key gaps were filled in the talks over the weekend. Spokespeople for both offices didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. While Prime Minister long pushed for a temporary ceasefire that amounted to the first phase of the three-stage proposal Israel submitted in May, the deal being finalized is increasingly closer to the original offer, with clauses connecting the first phase with two others, making it harder for Israel to resume fighting. We have maintained this level of power and influence over Israel since day one. Day one. This could have happened on October 10, 2023. So just remember that when people say, oh, Biden was trying his very best. And remember every single person that lied in that process as well. Every single person in the media, or like the likes of Maddie Iglesias, No Opinion, all these like Twitter losers that kept repeating the position over and over again that Biden was trying his best. And you guys simply don't understand that Israel's a foreign ally. They're a sovereign state. They can get their weapons from elsewhere. That is a lie. Some people are stupid enough to believe that lie and repeat it. And many are openly lying to the American public. Okay? Anyway, do you have any input on this? Sorry. We're gonna watch the 60 Minutes video as well after this.
Okay, no, you're right. I think like
all right, Spit King.
Yeah. I think one of the funniest things to me, it's not funny, but like something that kept regularly happening was like a news report would drop and it would be like, Biden's really angry at Netanyahu today. Like he's so mad he's gonna do something this next week. And that's been like entire like year and a half since then. So
yeah. Now that now that Biden is also leaving office, a lot of these people are coming out of the woodwork to be like, oh, well, you know, Biden's legacy is forever tarnished by supporting this genocide. And it's like, dude, he was doing that for years. He was doing that for the past year. Like, what are you saying? You're chirping now that it's like, you know, now that it's in its closing stage?
Well, I most definitely think that people dead ass believed it. Like, they believed that, like, every time, like, it's like we are working on a deal and it's just Hamas that's stopping them, even though, like, every deal that was offered got shut down. Because, like, I think a lot of the Hamas deals just included, like, leaving, like, the Israeli troops leaving, and that was, like, not something that Netanyahu was ever willing to do in the first place.
No, the point is, Netanyahu doesn't jump without America saying jump. This is why I kept reiterating this point over and over again, that, like, a lot of people, I think, misunderstand the dynamic between Israel and the United States of America. Some of that actually leans into anti-Semitic territories as well, where they're like, Israel has an outsized level of influence and control over American society and American public officials. And it's like, no, ultimately, it is America that wants Israel to do this. And I think that's hard for a lot of people. Like, it's a hard pill for a lot of Americans to swallow, where they're like, why is this, like, tiny foreign ally of ours getting so much attention and so much power? It can't be that our leaders are using our tax dollars and our publicly funded research and our weapon systems to allow these atrocities to continue. And I think it's a little bit of American exceptionalism and a little bit of confusion coming from mainstream outlets that kind of muddy the waters between the dynamic between, like, America and Israel. But the reality has always been clear. America wanted this to happen. Okay? America wanted this to happen. Sure, there are actors within the Israeli government that have different ambitions, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the dynamic of it's not about permission. It's about simply offering the logistics to be able to pull this genocide off.
Yeah, no, big time. Because it's just, like, not possible without our funding. Like, at any point, at any moment.
Yeah. Look at the date of this article. Biden expresses frustration with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, confirms 3-day pause request.
There's like 50 of those articles. There's,
Yeah.
He's so, next time, I mean, even when, I can't remember how many months ago it was, where they're like, if they don't stop, when they stopped like food deliveries from going into Gaza, they're like, if they don't stop this by this date, we're going to stop funding them. And then there's, like, the next funding session rolled around and they threw another $1 billion.
In the USS Liberty, is the USS Liberty not an example of Israel dog-walking the U.S.? In at least one instance, pretty hard. I understand the U.S. has the upper hand, but how do you reconcile such counterexamples? Great question, Chatter. The answer is clear. Do you think that the American government cares about the well-being of American service members? If that was the case, why did they invade Iraq illegally, where 13,000 U.S. service members died? America does not care about its own service members. America doesn't care about its own citizens. You don't have health care. How do you reconcile that reality? America does not and has never given a shit about even its own civilian population that it's supposed to protect and serve. And it certainly doesn't care about its service members either. America also very clearly doesn't care about American citizens being killed, because how many American citizens has Israel killed so far? Remember when Biden said, we are going, you know, not a single every American's life is safe. Every American's life is of the utmost importance to us. He said that, and then Israel killed a bunch of American citizens in broad daylight, sometimes assassinating them with sniper rifles in the West Bank, not even in Gaza. Many instances in the West Bank, as a matter of fact. Biden didn't say a single damn thing about that. He didn't even punish Israel for those crimes either. So the USS Liberty is yet another example that proves the argument that I have, which is that, one, America doesn't care about its own citizens, and certainly not about the lives of people living in the global south in general. Okay? But America also will let Israel do whatever it wants, because ultimately Israel is incredibly valuable to the grand designs that America has in this resource-rich region. Okay? That's it. International pressure seemingly has also failed spectacularly. International organs of justice have failed to enforce some semblance of the international rule-based order that the United States was tasked with maintaining, which is a laughable notion. But I think it's more apparent now than ever before that no one ever cared about that. Okay?
Damn, this guy's good.